Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I'm going to welcome you to our program today. So, if you have been listening to us talk, what I do is I take an individual horror film from any type of decade and any type of subgenre of horror, and me and my special guest kind of sit down, we talk, we have a conversation about that film, and that conversation can go any and every which way. Now, if you've been listening to our podcast this month, you will realize what we've been doing is we have been highlighting and specializing our themed month around director Wes Craven, and today's conversation will revolve around one of my favorite Wes Craven films, which is Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994. And to discuss this film with me, I have brought Mr. Philip Ray and Mr. Dave Watkins, who we're very happy to have back on the program. Thank you so much, guys. I think this will be our second Nightmare on Elm Street related film, so this is going to be really interesting.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, I missed the first one you guys talked about. I really liked the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
I can't remember
awesome
if we
movie.
did that last year or 2 years ago now, but
Yeah.
we haven't gone back to the franchise, which is kind of weird for us, but we're going to start going back to some of the other entries this month, or this year, so it should be very interesting. All right.
Yeah, I did recently see the first one again. On 4K, looks really good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Good
Um,
release of it.
good. I don't know if all the other ones have been released in 4K yet.
But they have been in a box, or you can get them all together. They don't have individual releases, but you can get them all in either like a steelbook box, and then they also have like a regular like plastic back box. You can get them all of them together. It kind of fluctuates in price. Sometimes I think the lower end's like $60 for the plastic case box. But so far the ones I've seen have really good transfers, including this one that we're talking about today.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I wasn't sure about this one if they had all been done in 4K or not. So I'm surprised they have not been released like individually because for me, from what I hear about all the horror fans, this one's a franchise where there are like individual films that people love and there's individual films that people don't like. So I can see them selling really well as individual films as opposed to an entire box set. So.
Yeah, the only one they don't have in there is the remake. The one that doesn't have Robert Englund in it. Well, they also don't have Freddy versus Jason in there either. That doesn't have a 4K release yet. So.
Interesting. The last two. Okay.
Yeah. I think it may be a rights issue with both of those.
I thought they were all New Line Cinema.
It's possible. I might not know what I'm talking about. That's my guess.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. The last one, Freddy versus Jason, there's
New Line?
two companies. It was New Line and
should have been
Platinum Dunes, I believe. Which one had it first? Paramount.
Paramount had Friday 13th, but then New Line did Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, and I just assumed that they did the Freddy versus Jason as well.
Yeah, there's definitely something up with it. They may not even wanted to put the Jackie Earl Haley Freddy movie in here. But that may have never been like something they wanted to do. But it would have been. But yeah, it would have made it even better if they had those two releases in there, which hopefully they'll come out.
It was New Line and Paramount.
Yeah. For the Freddy versus Jason one. Yeah.
Which is surprising.
But those have been released by Arrow Video. The other three Friday the 13th films that are owned by New Line. So Arrow Video hopefully will eventually put out Freddy versus Jason.
Interesting. Okay.
That's what I'm hoping for. If it hadn't happened yet.
All right. So, getting our conversation started for this one, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I do want to ask you, when did you see this film and what were your impressions? We're going to start with Philip because I'm trying to see if Philip saw it at the theater or not. I think
definitely did not see it in the theaters. To age myself, this movie came out when I was born. So,
oh my God.
Yes, I definitely did not see this movie when it first came out. But I
you
did
may have, and you just didn't realize it. Your parents may have brought you in there.
I saw it from the womb. But I did see. But I ended up seeing it, funny enough, on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh my God. Oh, okay.
A couple years later.
It was edited, I would assume, but not that there's a lot of gore in this one.
There's honestly, much. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about more, but yeah, this honestly, it's one of those that it could mostly be unedited on TV because I mean, there's barely any gore in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Dave? Or what were your impressions of it when you first saw it then? Philip?
Uh, it's funny because I ended up seeing this. Like I saw the original Friday, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but I had not seen all of them yet. So it was kind of funny watching this before that. And it's funny. I was thinking more about it. We'll talk more about it later, but it was funny too of like seeing this idea of kind of the meta commentary, like the meta movie and stuff because I had not seen a lot of that at the time, and that wasn't a big thing, which is funny nowadays with how often we see a meta movie like Anaconda that came out last year and stuff. But it was definitely like it was definitely interesting because again, I had not seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies when I saw this, so I was like, which honestly, other than you honestly don't need to see all of them to watch this movie.
No, you don't.
No.
Yeah. It is. It's a standalone for sure. It works by itself.
Yeah.
As long as you have a kind of an idea about it. Really, the first one is the only one you'd really would.
Yeah, and that's only because of the characters. In reality, from my understanding of how it was conceived, you could have stepped into this movie having never seen any of the movies and gotten this film on its own. That's kind of what Wes Craven kind of conceived of the film when he did it. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he never bothered to watch any of the sequels to his own original movie.
Yeah.
No, he actually did. Before he made this movie, he ended up watching all of this, everything that came up at the time and stuff, which like you just verbally said, Kevin, he was like, yeah, the sequels were not good. he was like, yeah, they're not good. But he actually did funny enough watch all of them before he did the movie.
Well, that's probably it. You just said it. He never bothered to watch them until he decided to make his own.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't really pull anything from the sequels. He watched them and he just like, all right, we're just going to stick with the first movie only.
That's literally it. That's literally it. And that was more visual cues for us fans out there. There's a lot of visual cues in the movie. But like I said, if you've never seen the first movie, Dave, what about you?
So I'm a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan, the first one and the third one especially. So this one, the first time I saw it, I believe I rented it for probably for Blockbuster or something, and I didn't quite know what to think about it. At the time, I was like, I wasn't as into it. This is a groundbreaking meta slasher film, and it is kind of what established it, and it is what brought Scream to life eventually. There's actually a lot of things they pulled from this and put into the Scream movies, but I had a hard time with it just because of there's some parts that are really good, but I thought it was a really slow moving movie. I felt like a lot of the scenes were over long, and I'm just like wanting to edit the scenes down while I'm watching it. But I think they could cut a good 15 or 20 minutes out of this film and it would play a lot better.
Interesting. That's why I wanted to hear your stories first.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's listening, please bear with my story on this movie. Okay. So this is the very first Nightmare on Elm Street film that I ever saw at the theater. I saw this at the theater. Now, when I saw it at the theater, my dad had to take me, my father had to take me because, obviously I was too young to actually go see it by myself. And I had the choice between this film and the next Karate Kid. And my father was trying to talk me into seeing the next Karate Kid like I don't know what. He had no idea what the fuck Wes Craven's New Nightmare was. He was just talking up next Karate Kid because we had seen the Karate Kid Part 2 at the theater and Karate Kid Part 3. And I was like, dude, that doesn't have Ralph Macchio in it. I don't give a shit about the next Karate Kid. I want to see Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So...
Well, I feel like, just real quick, I feel like you would have been older, though, at this point. Because I would have been 16 when this came out.
16.
Yeah, so you were older than me though. So it's like you would have been like 18 or 19, I would think.
No, we're about the same age, dude.
Right. All right. Well,
I probably would have been 17. I probably would have
yeah.
been 17.
Okay. I got you. I got you.
But my dad had to take me to go see this because I was a little scared. My dad had to take me to all these horror movies back in the day. Anyways, he
Yeah.
didn't. I don't think he stayed. I think he literally just bought the tickets and then left. But
Oh,
when,
yeah.
when you take your parents and you tell them, "I want to go see this horror movie that's rated R that has a poster like this one," and then there's a
Yeah.
Karate Kid, you're like, "Well, don't you want to see that?" No, I don't want to see the next Karate Kid. I want to see fucking Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So I
Yeah.
saw Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and unlike you two, this was my one of the two favorite movies of the year for me. This movie. The other one, which is also a meta film, was John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. Those
Yeah.
ended up being my two favorite movies
Right.
of '94.
Yeah. I love In the Mouth of Madness. I was going to mention that because this feels like In the Mouth of Madness, but I like In the Mouth of Madness. I do like parts of this. Again, I just don't. I've never connected with it that good for some reason. But I do. I mean that the In the Mouth of Madness. It's weird because I think a lot of times when the meta idea of this and bringing it's almost like a little pretentious to me when you bring the filmmakers into the movie and they're talking about the script. Sometimes it feels a little pretentious. I start like feeling some cringe coming up.
You felt
But I mean, obviously, a lot of people that really like this movie. I've had a lot of people say they like it, but I've always felt a little cringe watching it. You know?
this film has been better as a cult movie than when it originally came out. It did not do well at the box office, from what I remember.
Oh yeah, it was the lowest grossing
Yes.
Nightmare movie.
Yes, I don't think people got it because it was so different than what they were expecting. It is now considered one of the best of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but that took time. It took time. It did not it wasn't an overnight success. The people who loved it like me when I first saw it is because it was so different. I think the '90s I was getting a little bit waned of the whole slasher genre, anyways. Between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Halloween, what Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday 13th, and all, it was they would all seem the same to me. Doesn't matter how different they were; they all seem kind of the same to me.
Freddy was always much more bonkers than any of the others. So there's always because of the dream sequences. There's always
Yeah.
a lot more in these than the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was always a Wes Craven fan. Like
Yeah,
I loved all of his movies as a director when I was growing up, except for his earlier ones. Like I hadn't by '94, I hadn't seen Last House on the Left, and I hadn't seen some of his TV movies. Like I hadn't seen any of those. I had seen all of his mainstream films, so to speak. And he had a name up there like John Carpenter for me. I'd go see whatever they put out. And this movie for me was like I love the whole meta aspect for it because I hadn't seen it before. Like my two favorite movies was that and In the Mouth of Madness because they were so different than everything else I had seen at that time. And neither one of them were box office draws. They're both cult movies now. People love both of them now. But when they came out, they did nothing at the box office. And it was
It's
like
funny watching this because it's like the whole because again, like I was referencing earlier, now the meta movies, like back in the '90s and stuff, that was a thing. But nowadays, it's such a common not ultra common, but it's very common. Like you guys talked about, Scream, Anaconda recently did that. Tropic Thunder, like the meta
Tropic Thunder's awesome. That's really awesome.
yeah, the meta movie idea, like this, really is one of the most prime examples of when they started doing that before it really caught on, where it became like, oh, okay, this is like going to be a hitter.
This was much more unique because the characters played, for the most part, like 80% of the characters played themselves. Bob Shaye, Sarah, Robert Englund, they're all playing themselves, which people just don't do in movies that often.
I really like Heather Langenkamp's performance. I think she did a really good job in this. It's surprising she didn't do a lot more stuff after this one. Outside of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I think she does a really good job playing herself.
Hey, how do you know she's playing herself? She's playing the character.
I think. Well, again, this has a ridiculous amount of talking in it, and she talks a lot more than you've ever seen her talk in anything ever before, and she holds it up. But at the same time, I'm like, that's a lot of dialogue, and it's like it's really and then really like just explaining things like way too much sometimes.
It's the thing with this movie is, well, first going back to, Heather playing herself. The thing with this movie, it's good and bad that Wes Craven pulled a lot of stuff that was happening at the time in this movie that I think I'm doing research, I was like, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. But if you don't know any of that, I do agree what
But
Dave's saying. Like
yeah,
some of it is just like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like
what's some examples of
like
that?
like like Heather's the whole
Stalker.
thing about Heather being stalker.
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
actually happening to
Yeah.
her in real life, and they
Yeah.
pulled that in. The
yeah,
earthquakes. For me,
yeah,
I was like, what? Why was the earthquake stuff was so random until finding out that there actually was earthquakes in Los Angeles around that time, and Wes
yeah.
Craven actually
Yeah.
filmed got some of the filming of that. But not knowing that in context, when I watched it the first time, I was like, this is really random with the earthquake because of how often it kept going and stuff. But now knowing like, oh, there was
Yeah.
significance with that. But I think that's something that again, if you don't know, it's cool when you find it out. But if you don't know going in, some things do just not feel like awkward choices.
Well, the earthquakes do pay off in the movie
Yeah.
because the more they it's like that's really like the Freddy or this other ancient entity coming into the world or trying to get into the world, and you start to see the world changing at some point. It's kind of like in the Mouth
Yeah.
of Madness, but they
Yeah.
don't. Again, they don't do it as good as in the Mouth of Madness. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a part where she's driving down the road and you see the buildings starting to look like Freddy Krueger buildings and stuff, which I really love all that stuff. But I don't think they actually had enough of it. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I do remember that though in real life when the
Earthquakes.
earthquakes
Yeah.
were happening, and it was like a big deal. And but now it's like I had an earthquake. I felt an earthquake here, and it's like it's rumble for like 2 seconds, and nothing happens. Maybe one thing might fall, but that's about it. It's not like crazy. I think the whole house is about to collapse, like in the film. But maybe it is like that in LA, or it was back then
Yeah.
on the
Earthquakes
fault
would be
line.
like that, dude.
Yeah.
We just better thank God we don't have earthquakes like in Japan,
Yeah.
where whole cities get buried.
Yeah, that California is on a fault line. There's always been that joke that it's going to break off and go into the sea, be its own
Oh,
separate entity. So
huh? Huh? So, well, the thing is, I really, really loved about this film, and and not just one of the reasons why I love the film is the fact that not Heather Langenkamp was for me somebody who just kind of disappeared after the third film in this franchise. I didn't realize that she didn't act as much as she did, and over the years after this film, she's still acting now. She's done lots of stuff since this movie. But there was a long period of time where she just didn't do anything. And I remember the incident where she had her stalker. I remember all that when that was out. Because
maybe that's why she stopped acting. Maybe because that's pretty concerning when you have a stalker like that.
yeah, and plus we know of plenty of incidences out there with actresses, because I don't know of any male actors where the stalkers became violent. You gotta remember, some actresses have been killed by their stalkers and shit like
Yeah,
that. So it's a very
right.
serious issue. So when
It's
I'm
usually their boyfriends that kill them. So
yeah, that's cool. But the ideal that Wes Craven was crafting a film, and he also was commenting in this film about the state of New Line Cinema and the Freddy legacy that was left behind after Wes Craven left, and all the stuff that happened afterwards. So I always thought that it was a boon for everyone involved with New Line Cinema to actually want to be in this film, because
yeah,
Wes Craven was making such a commentary on what had happened with the whole legacy of Nightmare on Elm Street after he left. Because you got to remember, even his screenplay for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was rewritten by Frank Darabont, among probably other people before it was actually fucking made. I don't
yeah.
know all the details of what actually is his in the final film, but
Not much. Yeah,
yeah, it,
they have some behind the scenes on the disc, but I don't know. I mean, I hear about what Wes Craven wanted to do in that movie. I don't necessarily like it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember hearing it, and I'm like, he was always trying to go in a different direction with it. He didn't want to go.
No, not the way he went.
Yeah,
No.
he almost always wanted to go out like this, like out and bring it to a completely make it into a completely different movie than what it was before, without really. I mean, I don't like again. I don't remember exactly what it was. I do remember hearing it. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't do that, and I can see why they didn't do it. But I can see why he wanted to do it. I hear that a lot of times when you hear the people who made the sequels, they start talking about what the original person wanted to do, and when I hear it, I'm like, wow, they just like didn't they did not want to continue with the story. It's what it sounds like most of the time. It sounds like the story's this, and you can kind of see where it could go, and then they're just like, nah, I'm going to do something completely different. Like Exorcist 2. It's like what happened?
A good example, dude. That's a really good example. I think with sequels, and this one especially, the studio, the brainchild, the New Line Cinema of the world decides they want to just repeat what they think was popular about the first one. But you got to remember that with Wes Craven, there was a lot more thought crafted in that first A Nightmare on Elm Street. He put a lot of shit in there before they actually even made the film. Whereas, with the second one, they rushed the second one in production, and
The second one, yeah, the second one is kind of its own
it's his own
thing
whole
too.
thing, yeah.
Because they did, yeah, they got away from that story when they went to the third one. They went back to its roots with the third one, and that's the second one is its own thing, which is kind of interesting. But it's definitely they were trying to turn another character into Freddy in that one.
Well, they didn't have any rules. They didn't want to. They didn't know. Like Wes Craven is a person who creates his own rules, and that's what you see in this movie. He's creating the rules for the world in which the demon entity is crafted and it inhabits the Freddy film character. And those rules have to be explained because they're not the same rules as Freddy in the film world. That's the aspect of this I like, is the fact that there are new rules that you have to follow, because obviously he didn't like the sequels because they didn't really follow what he originally crafted or wanted to craft with an actual sequel, had he had the chance to do an actual sequel back in the day.
The sequels did progress and get fairly messy, but I always thought they were entertaining. I think that once you got into the fifth one, it became like they were fighting. You could tell like the studio execs were fighting with the creators on what they were doing, and it just kind of got. You could just tell it was kind of messy. Again, I still thought they were entertaining, but that one and Freddy's Dead were both kind of like that.
Yeah, because the thing with the Freddy Krueger character compared to like Leatherface or Jason is that for their sequels that got crazier and crazier and stuff, they don't have too much personalities versus Freddy, who again, like he was the kind of the Chucky effect before Chucky, where it's like serious, and then as the movies got on, they made Freddy sillier and sillier and sillier and stuff, and more jokey, to where basically he's just a murderous Bugs Bunny, which is why,
Yeah,
like in this movie and stuff, Wes Craven tried to really pull that back and stuff on
yeah.
like
Yeah,
making him like no jokes, no jokes. He
he's
is
back.
just serious.
He's back to the original Freddy that was in the first movie. There's no Freddy doesn't joke around in the first movie. It's more or less someone he's a child killer who is killing children in their dreams in the first movie. And I guess at some point you kind of forget that when you're watching the sillier sequels until they start calling them son of 100 maniacs, and then you start thinking of that. uh, with this film, it's like this is just a really evil entity. And he looks that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which
and
I
Yeah.
want to talk to you both about the look, because Wes Craven was like trying so hard to make it feel different.
Mhm.
He changed Freddy's look. I want to hear both your opinions of the redesign, because I have my opinions of it.
All right, so I'll
Well,
go
yeah.
first on this one, so
All
you
right,
guys
yeah.
know my opinion before you guys let your opinions go. I love the look of this, but I've also grown up with this since the '94 when I saw it. For me, the look of Freddy in the original films, and it got more burnt up and more and darker depending on which film you watch. Unless you start watching Freddy's Dead, then it just gets really kooky, to say the least. I liked the look in here. I liked seeing. So two things. I liked seeing the mechanical hand in the opening segment of this film. I thought it was different. I thought it was clever. And then when you see the actual redesign of the prototype hand that Chase, who plays Heather's husband, Chase Porter, creates or is in the process of creating, it's a really cool idea. You see like the veins on the outside and all. I really love that look. It's different. It's something I wasn't expecting. And it personifies the evil entity that's supposed to be at the heart of Wes Craven's story. Like, this is not Freddy Krueger. It's an entity that is just using that persona right now. And it just happens to really like that persona. That can be anything. I like the look of that because the look on Freddy's face and the makeup is so much, is very cool. The change in the costume. Yeah, I like that. Even though you still have a hat on Freddy Krueger, it's different. It's different and Robert Englund playing him is different. He's not doing the same thing we're used to seeing. It's something darker. It's something that we probably should have seen in the second movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the makeup. I thought it was very interesting. Even the makeup on his face is more pronounced. It's more of a fleshier with a redder under it. And he has three different costumes. He has like a trench coat over his kind of sweater. Sweater even looks a little different.
Yeah.
He has that over the sweater, and then he has the sweater with no hat, and then he has that with the hat. Several scenes he goes bald with no hat on at all, like several times. I think even in the last sequence he doesn't have the hat anymore.
He doesn't have the hat.
Yeah.
I think he mostly wears it when he's killing Julie in the hospital.
Yeah.
He's walking up the side of the walls. There's a lot of callbacks to the original film, which I absolutely love about this movie.
That I liked it. I liked the change in it. I thought it was great. I liked his performance. So, and the claw was cool too, the mechanical claw.
Yeah.
Except for when it was clawing through the seat and then didn't leave marks. It was kind of, I don't know. But,
yeah, I'm mixed on it. I like the claw. I like the kind of bio kind of like, I think Wes Craven said he wanted to look like part of a animal and stuff with it, and I like that. I thought the claw looked good. I'm mixed a little bit on the makeup. There sometimes I thought it looked good. There are some scenes where I didn't think the makeup, the redness of the splotches of kind of skin and stuff. I thought some scenes it just does not look good. At least
sometimes it's really red under. It's like a lot of it's kind of a little bit closer to like a flesh tone, and then under it there's will be just like a really large spot of red there, of blood, I guess, or burnt flesh.
Yeah. So for me, it kind of the design kind of kept going up and down for me on like some scenes. I was like, oh, that looks really good. And again, like the hospital scene with Julie is like, oh, that looks great. And then there's other scenes where I was like, I wasn't digging it as much. And with the whole hat and stuff, like you said, they kept the hat, but they made it green. I was like, I didn't mind the trench coat. I thought the trench coat looks good and stuff. I know some fans didn't like the trench coat, but I was fine with it personally. But
it'd be hard to get that trench coat off with that glove on, if you think about it.
But I thought the green fedora, the green hat, I thought didn't work as well as the original brown.
Yeah, it was green. It was like more of a lighter green, kind of close to it. Even the sweater's a little muted with the green on the sweater. I think it kind of matches the muted green on the sweater. I think that was what the costume guy was trying to do, or gal.
Yeah, I'm not sure who did the costume design. I'm sure it was really close to whatever Wes Craven has cooked up in his head. Because the only thing I really think brings the film down is some of the now dated CGI that's in the film, which is why I'm curious to see how the 4K looks in the movie.
Well, there's not a lot of CGI in the film. I didn't think it looked that bad. Even the claw through the seat, like I was talking about, when Chase is driving the car and it comes up through the seat, which that one's probably the more CGI of most of the things that happen. It was all right.
I'm talking more towards the end.
Yeah, I know. You know what the worst sequence is that car when they're trying to cross the highway.
Yeah.
That looks pretty bad. But that I don't like that sequence. I got a lot to say about it, but
Really, I love that sequence.
I
Like,
hate it
No,
so much.
I actually agree with you, Dave, on that sequence. So, like, my problem with it is they were really trying to kind of they were trying to get a feel a little bit of Pet Cemetery, kind of like with the trucks and stuff. But I mean, it just went on too long.
And it's the kid from Pet Cemetery too.
Yeah,
He's
and
in it.
it
Miko
just went
Hughes.
too
Yeah.
long for me.
It went on for a long. I mean, uh, uh, do we want to talk about it in order, or we want to talk about? Go ahead and talk about the thing.
I don't know. We're talking about this movie in a weird order because we started talking about Freddy Krueger and the
Yeah.
look that they crafted for him.
Yeah. Let's bring it back to that opening dream sequence, which is on the set. And at first, I was like cringing because of some of the stuff they were saying while they were shooting the scene. But it makes better. It gets better. Like Wes Craven playing himself in it. It's okay and like kind of okay here. But then when the longer scene, I feel like all the stuff that he said needed to be said, but I almost feel like he should have had someone else playing the character because of how important it is.
I think what would have helped with that too, with your feelings of Wes Craven, was this movie had a couple of things cut, and I do think a lot. It's interesting because a lot of things that got cut were things that, because generally, other than the small moment, again, like this movie doesn't have a lot of deaths. It's very tame on its kill count, and even like the kills and stuff are mostly just kind of like pseudo like inspirations of the originals with the kills and stuff. But like
Yeah.
generally, other than like the final sequence, it's really not that fantastical with its kills or with its looks too much. It's very kind of there. And so like with Wes Craven, one thing that was going to be a thing, but they cut it was he was going to have his eyelids cut off. Like,
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
he was going to be, because he's been haunted by the entity and stuff. So he was trying to stay awake, so he cut his eyelids up, and that would have been a very gnarly look. But again,
Yeah.
that got cut.
That'd be a little over the top, though, I
That would be
think.
over the top.
Yeah, but I mean, that's one of those things you hear. Like I read about it somewhere, but it was like when I read that was one of the things that made me think of something similar that he was thinking about doing for the third one, where I'm like, yeah, going a little too far with it. Again, I mean, I don't think he's horrible in the scene. I think he does an okay job playing himself. The problem is he has that really heavy lifting scene that goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes, where he has to basically give you the whole plot, and he's also playing a character he's not Jurgen Prochnow in The Mouth of Madness. He's pretty much is that character, but he's not that actor. And so it's the character like Sutter Kane, just not the it's I get why he would want to do it because he is the person making the movie, but he's not. I don't know. Am I making sense with this?
Yeah, I see what you're trying to go with it, but the intention of the movie is to have a mixture of reality with the film world. If Wes Craven has someone else playing Wes Craven, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
That he's crafting with the film. Also, the movie is not designed really to be a Freddy Krueger movie. It is a fairy tale that is passed on from generation to generation, and the metaphor is that of Hansel and Gretel. So there's not a lot of kills because there doesn't need to be a lot of kills. It's a fairy tale that has to be passed on from generation to generation. That's why.
Why do you think Hansel and Gretel what brings you to that conclusion?
That's the story they tell 3 times in the whole entire movie.
Okay.
Do you not pick that up?
I don't know, man. There's like way too much dialogue in this movie.
The story that Heather Langenkamp tells her son is Hansel and Gretel.
I can tell you, man. Every time there's a scene between her and her son, I was checked out of the movie.
No.
It's like
Just think something about the Hansel and Gretel thing is really important because that's how she follows him into Freddy's lair at the very end.
Yeah. No, I'm not believing you. I'm just asking you why you think that is. Hansel and Gretel is used in a lot of films, but I was just curious about why you thought that.
Well, there you go. And then of course, they put Freddy into the oven and they burn him alive. There's a bunch of Hansel and Gretel references in this movie. A whole lot of.
Well, I mean, even though the original Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street could be contributed to Hansel and Gretel because he is is a child molester. He does go after kids, and then they do burn him, or the parents burn him. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you do have the parallels between it, but you
It's
don't
it,
have the you don't
it's
have like
much
the
more.
cookies or whatever,
Oh, this one
or
is much more. It's much more in your face because Dylan is a little kid. He's a little
yeah.
kid in as opposed to the teenagers in the original one. He's the little kid, and at times when the doctor tells Heather's character that she thinks that Heather's being neglectful to her child, that's sort of what the implication in Hansel and Gretel is. Why the kids are away from their family and they seek out the witch's house and all that type of stuff while they're lured away. Some of a lot of those references are in this movie as opposed to the original Friday night. Jesus, now you got me saying Friday 13th, Dave. Nightmare on Elm Street.
We're talking about Jason now, everyone.
Jesus. But you get the sense that because this story is this is an evil entity whose life force is told through story, and the story has to be repeated, or the demon or monster doesn't stay trapped. And the whole story aspect is right for me was really cool. And so for the story and for the monster to be trapped again, we have to make Freddy more relevant, or you have to be able to make it more relevant, and people have to actually pay attention and listen. Now,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like some of the ideas. I just don't like the execution of the film. I, I mean, I do like. There's several scenes I do like a lot. I just think that, like for instance, like we're talking about, there's a lot of scenes between the mom and the kid where they just sit there, and I'm like thinking, and they have a conversation that goes on for like 2 to 3 minutes, just them in a bed, and there's like three or four of those in the film, and it's just like every time I'm like, this could be cut from the movie, and it would flow a lot better, or at least trimmed down because they're so long, and
Yeah,
I just think they're uninvolving to me.
I think for me, and I don't fully agree, Kevin, with the whole because it's Hansel and Gretel, they couldn't have more kills. I do think there could have been um, at least something like I understand some of the things that I honestly, I think generally what they cut, because there's a lot of things they cut that was brought a little more of the fantastical elements from it. Uh,
When you say cut, you're talking about from the actual script writing process, not that they shot. Is that what you're saying?
I actually not completely because they did. So one of the things they did film and they cut, and even Wes Craven doesn't know why it got cut. So the scene when Dylan is possessed and stuff, that was going to go on a lot longer than what it was. Like we saw him, do the
Yeah,
exorcist puke and stuff, but he basically his eyes were going to like apparently Wes Craven filmed it, like his eyes got red,
yeah,
maggots came like
yeah.
flying out of him and stuff, and that was a longer sequence and it got
Yeah.
cut down. And
But
Wes Craven was
that's yeah, that's something you actually need, I think. I think that it's hard to like you need more visuals in it and
yeah.
less talking to me. Instead of explaining what's going on with the kid, seeing it a lot of times.
The thing I would agree with is that when you think of Nightmare on Elm Street and you think of the movies, there's a lot of iconic scenes, deaths. When you get, and even some of the other movies, the franchise, even the ones that aren't good, there's at least like one or two moments like, oh, I remember that sequence, or oh, I remember that. This movie didn't have that for me. There's not a sequence that I really was like, oh yeah, this is gonna stick in my mind. The concept did, and stuff, but definitely there's not a really iconic scene in this movie that like because even like the most iconic quotation is just a rehash of the Julie's death. It's just a rehash of the first movie. So it's just it's a rehash from the first movie, and I would agree that for me was a little bit of a detractor of the movie.
I think like that Julie character in general is like that. So it's Heather Langenkamp's babysitter who's way up in her business in an odd, weird way. It's almost like they're acting like they're sisters, and that Julie character acts really weird in several of the scenes. So you think it's something's cool's gonna happen with the character, but never does.
Well, that's a thing that got cut too. Julie's character And I kind of get it, but so the reason you felt that way is because Julie was supposed to be an avatar for Freddy, like the
Yeah,
entity. The entity was going to that was kind of like the spy and stuff. But then they ended up
yeah.
cutting it,
They wanted
so
another
they
scene to death scene, maybe. Yeah,
yeah.
but
So because even the death of they even originally not Donald the Chase originally was not going to die in the original script. They killed him because the new line was like, "There's not enough death in here.
yeah,
Like, we need to add a little more death in it." And I think that's also why they end up changing Julie's as well
yeah.
because
Yeah, I feel like that actually hurts the film
yeah,
because Wes Craven was trying not to have any deaths until the end. That was what he was trying to do. But once you see Chase get killed, you're like, oh shit, it's on. And then it's
yeah.
not really. It's just like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to wait, you know? Because I mean, yeah, I mean that it definitely makes it uneven like that. But and it's not a very good death either. It's actually pretty rough that yeah, but the claw comes out of the seat and it rips into his chest, and then he crashes, kind of like there's a motorcycle crash guy in one of the films that was similar to that. I think it's four, if I'm not mistaken.
5.
It's five. Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
five. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Even to me, Julie's death was okay, but even and this is just me nitpicking, but I thought some of the blood just did not read as well, like in the original.
It's well, I mean, to me that scene works though because it is in a hospital. It's really brightly lit. The blood is really bright. I mean, it doesn't look that gory, and it goes on. That goes. It's actually kind of interesting the way that they made it more obvious the way that they shot it. Obviously, they got to make an upside down room to shoot it the way that they do, but practical special effect. It still holds up, but it does look a lot brighter. In the first one, it was in a very dark room, and that scene from the first one was so gruesome. That was one of the ones I remember kids at school talking to me about it, and I was like, wasn't thinking it was going to be anything, and I saw it. It like, kind of scared the shit out of me at the time.
Well, that's because in the original film, it's a much darker scene, and then of course, when her body falls, it more or less has
Yeah,
created a
yeah,
puddle on the bed that just kind of splatters everywhere.
yeah. That's it's
Uh,
awesome though in that one. But
and this one, you kind of see the effects of the blood when it bounces onto Dylan's face and it causes him to scream and run. But it's not the same. It's different. And
yeah,
it's more. I guarantee you, it's much more technically proficient and executed than in the original, probably because they have much bigger budget. It's brightly lit so that they could a lot of the stuff is hidden much better than it was in the original. It was probably done in the original the way it was because it was dark and they had to hide a lot of shit back then.
yeah,
And it was not a very big budget movie compared to this one. So I could see,
yeah.
the achievement was doing it in broad daylight where you could see everything and try and figure out where the tricks are in
Yeah.
the film.
I mean, this movie is quite polished looking. It looks very clean most of the time, and even like say like the places people are. There's no real. There's no real character. There's no like for the most part. There's no real character to the locations. It's like she's got a really nice house. Nothing too interesting about it. We got a hospital. Nothing too interesting about it. We go to people's offices. They're not too interesting.
Well, the interesting thing would be if you're a filmmaker and you go to those offices and they shot in a lot of actual locations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I think that was probably the thing that Wes Craven was probably going for. He's actually shooting at the
yeah.
places no one's ever seen on the movie screen before.
Yeah, I mean, all of it makes sense. She's got like the house. There's a lot of scenes take place in her house, and then
Yeah,
it goes to the hospital, and then eventually that ancient lair thing, which is one of the probably more impressive sets. No, I
yeah.
mean all of these are sets though. That house set is a set, and it's pretty impressive looking, but it does look like a very clean, uninteresting house that you don't expect it to be a horror movie. Reminds
Well,
me.
I think when you're watching the movie to begin with, if you didn't know it was a Freddy movie, you're probably not expecting it to be a horror movie. The way it's lit, the way it's filmed, and everything else.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, yeah, it looks like a higher budget, Hallmark or Lifetime film. The way that some of those scenes are, because the family dynamic, and then the earthquake stuff, which starts to get creepier with the earthquake starting to happen.
Yeah.
But
If anything, I think that if you're if when and this is probably the reason why I think a lot of people did not like the movie when they originally came out, is that it tries its best the first third of the movie to not show people it's a Freddy Krueger movie. It tries really hard to do that. So everything is very subtle. Other than that opening sequence, everything's subtle. You see the visual cues, which is, the claw marks in the walls. You see all the little bitty things visually, but they're not being overt with any of it, except for that opening sequence. And it's a slow build. Now,
yeah,
a Freddy fan going in here is like wondering, why is it so slow? We already know it's a Freddy movie.
yeah.
But
Well, it's not, well, yeah, because it's
I
not
think
really like you're
that
saying. Yeah,
yeah, I think that is the point that Wes Craven is trying to make. He's trying to make a not Freddy film,
yeah,
but you get trapped when it's obviously the ideal of a Freddy film, but he's trying to not make it a Freddy film. So
right.
there's these
That's a
expectations that
That's
people
another
have.
thing too with that, Kevin, that ended up shooting itself in the foot was the producers and stuff, same deal, didn't want it to feel wanted to feel different. So a lot of the trailers and TV spots before the movie came out didn't even show Freddy. Like there weren't a lot of Freddy scenes until in the trailers and stuff. It wasn't until after the movie came out that they started like putting his face in there. But yeah, like they were trying to make it feel they in a way they were trying to make you not think of Freddy. So it would be more of a surprise when Freddy was there.
Yeah,
No, yeah. So the first scene of the film, let's kind of get into that real quick. So they have a dream sequence, which you don't know is a dream sequence. It looks like they're on set, they're shooting a horror movie. It kind of reminds me of the Pet Cemetery 2 opening a little bit.
it does.
Yeah, which came out like a year before this. And it also has the actor in it from the Pet Cemetery 2, and it has the actor from Pet Cemetery 1 in it. But um, and it's one of those where you see the hand and they're doing some kind of gag with it, and there's blood coming out of it, and it's okay, and then they bring this mechanical hand back, and it's apparently starting to malfunction, which is also the hand looks pretty cool in this sequence. They don't they could have done more with it. It kind of reminds me of I don't I, there's like this movie called Death Machine with Brad
Yeah,
Dourif in it. You seen that? It kind of
yeah,
reminds me a little bit of that. It's like but yeah, so it looks better than the one in Death Machine. But it comes to life and it ends up killing like two special effects dudes, probably the better effects of the film. And then it comes after Chase, like Heather Langenkamp's husband, and claws his arm and then or his fingers. And when he comes back out of the dream after the earthquake, he cuts his fingers. But Heather Langenkamp and the kid are all both in the dream too. So you get introduced to everybody in a dream sequence, including Wes Craven.
hmm
And so I mean, it's kind of. I mean, what do you think about that opening? It catches your attention a little bit, but it's a little aggravating, though.
Why is it aggravating? That's an interesting word to say.
It, I just thought it was. I just felt a little pretentious about some of it. Like it felt like non-authentic, like the way that the crew members were talking and stuff. It's like seemed like scripted crew member talk. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but I just find like sometimes you see these like they try to shove too much into like the director's just like walking behind him and telling him how to pump the blood out of the damn hand, and it's like he knows how to do it. He's a special effects artist, sort of thing. It's like that would have been talked about before going into the actual shot. But it's nitpicking the stuff though. I think a lot of times when I see movies when they're actually filming stuff, it kind of annoys me the way that they don't talk the way that the people actually talk on sets.
What about you?
I get what you mean. You're talking about like kind of the fake scripted like talk.
Yeah, when they're shooting a scene and it's just like the director's in the middle of the scene, like telling them how to do it and shit, and it's just like. But again, it's a dream. So, and you get introduced to Wes, which you needed to in this scene.
Yeah,
And then after that, it's equally annoying to me. I don't, this just then the kid and the mom are there. It's the mom's dream anyway, but they're there, and then the kid. And then there's like this family thing going on, and there's all this like talk about the new prototyped hand, and then not she's scared of the hand and the violence of the film. And there's a lot of talk about that throughout the film. Actually, every time that happens, when they talk about like the doctors, like you haven't been showing him your films, have you? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Every time they bring that up, I'm just like rolling my eyes.
Well, that's one of the things that I go back to when I reference the Hansel and Gretel story. That's why I don't mind that there's not a lot of violence in the movie. The ideal of the ideal of a child being subjected to horror films is also a commentary on the fact that children shouldn't be watching horror films, and it might be bad parenting if you are allowing your kids to watch these horror films. And she happens to be in some of the most famous horror films in this world, and everyone knows who she is, despite the fact that she only starred in 2 Nightmare on Elm Street films. Everyone, the limo driver, the doctors, the nurses, everyone seems to know who Heather Langenkamp is.
Now that idea about them on and on about horror movies being bad and don't show them to the kids is kind of hilariously kind of saved in the very last shot of the film when they read the horror script to the kid.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of like flipped backwards. Like, okay,
Well,
we've been preaching to you about not showing the horror movies, yet we're going to read it to the kid at the end.
Well, that's the thing is, in my opinion, the thing is that in order for to trap this so-called demon, you have to tell these stories and you have to keep repeating them over and over again. You can't let them out of the consciousness of the most recent generation. And so she's just telling the story to a new generation to keep it flowing. Whereas the doctors and everyone else says you should not subject kids to these type of stories. But we all know, growing up, we were subjected to these stories all the time. Edgar Allan Poe. These are stories we all grew up on. And that's kind of a part of the story that Wes Craven is trying to tell in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's times are different now than now. Like kids don't even care about watching horror movies that much, and parents definitely aren't going to think it's like going to be that bad. But it's most of the time they're more worried about they'll play these video games or look at these YouTube videos, and that's really being more harmful to them than watching any horror movie.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you. There was that whole time period where conservative parents were against all the violence in video games, and video games had to be rated just like movies. It had to be rated.
I mean, it's a lot different though if you grew up with that because we grew up with like video games like side-scrolling stuff, and they got these like interactive worlds that feel almost real while you're playing them, and their minds aren't quite developed yet, and they're seeing the world differently. Like they are in the video game, especially if they're playing something like Grand Theft Auto, and they can just go out and steal a car and rape somebody or whatever they're gonna do.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto, perfect example. Considering my young nephew grew up religiously playing that game, I was like, dude, isn't that game a little bit violent?
Yeah,
but I can't say I didn't have kids back then, so I was just being the older uncle. And I'm like, shit, I don't even play this game. This game is violent.
Right. Well, I think some people can handle it better than others, but some people do have a hard time, and this movie deals with this too, with its horror movies, telling the difference between reality and fiction, and so it's always been that, and that's the reason why they're basically saying don't watch the horror movies because then you won't be able to tell if it's real or not real, and it does take a long time while you're a kid, being able to truly understand what that means. People are saying that to you a lot, but it takes a long time to truly understand it.
Yeah. And then you get to my point. That's right. It takes a long time to understand it. Hence why we're watching this. And Dylan Dylan is kind of portrayed as a kid who mixes reality with the horror of the movies until the very end when Heather is telling the story to her son. And she's finally come to grips with the violence and everything that came in before all that. Remember, she's the one telling everyone that she doesn't let her son watch this. She's very conservative in her ideals of what she can and can't let her son watch. And we never are told how he gets to watch all this stuff beforehand. I know we say Freddy's been influencing him through the dreams, but also in the dreams, Rex has also been protecting him. So is he
We
protecting him from Freddy Krueger or protecting him from the influence of horror and violence?
well we see him watch the movie though. The TV turns itself on and shows it to him. It
Yeah.
just happens, you know. I think it's intentionally showing it to him.
Yeah, the same movie, yeah. And then of course he ends up repeating the lines out of the movie, which I actually think is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then of course there's that hint
Except,
of
except
him
for
being
yeah.
possessed.
Except for the time he did it in Donald Duck voice, that was a little off. But
That was I will agree. Oh my god, that was quite funny there. I had forgotten that until I
yeah,
rewatched it. Oh,
yeah, I mean, he's a really young kid, and he did a really good job in Pet Cemetery. He does a good job here, and he has a lot to do
he
in
has
the
a
film.
lot to do in this movie as a
Yeah,
character, Pet Cemetery, dude.
yeah. Even in Pet Cemetery, though, he was like 2 years old, and what he did in that was just amazing. But here he's got like a lot more heavy lifting. He's like really the second lead of the film, like
And he
you
has
know,
to
behind.
switch.
Yeah,
He has to switch from being Dylan to being like this possessed Freddy Krueger in the movie. Which I guarantee you, I can't have been easy for a little kid. Uh,
well, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe when he
well,
was like, maybe he had just had a natural like flow for it. You know, it's weird though. Some kids do, and some kids don't. You know.
I can see you were probably like that, Dave, when you were growing up, right?
Well, I don't think I'd have been able to jump in like that quick. Maybe in my head, maybe, but you know, it takes a long time to learn stuff like that. Some people are just naturals, so.
Oh
And,
Jesus.
and it's like sometimes, you know, he's still kind of doing some stuff now as an adult, but it's not as much as when he was a really young kid.
Hmm.
Um, I want to go back a little bit to this. You mentioned the limo driver, but I do want to nitpick this a little bit.
Go ahead.
This is nitpicking, but before I get into the nitpick, I do want to say there's a kind of a what becomes it scream like she's sitting in the house and the phone keeps ringing and it keeps being probably Freddie saying 1 2, and she hangs up, calls back, and he's like, Freddie's coming for you, sort of thing. And then the babysitter comes in, Julie, and then the phone rings again and she picks it up and she's like, leave us alone, you son of a bitch. And it ends up being the limo driver. And I feel like I don't know if it's the same actor doing the voice on the phone as the actor that they actually see outside, because he acts completely, if it is the same actor, he acts completely different because he's like limo LA limousine, ma'am. Just wanted to let you know I'm outside. It's something like that, you know, and it's just like really abrasive and rude, and it's like it just doesn't sound like the way like somebody would talk, especially like imagine this. You're the limo driver. Someone says, "Leave us alone, you son of a bitch." It's like LA limousine, ma'am, would be the next thing you would say, and not like, "Oh, maybe I got the wrong number." You know, I don't know. I mean, it's just so unnatural. It's something that you don't think about, I guess, because just. But to me, it's like, man, that was off that whole thing. And then he calls back again. Well, this is even worse, actually. She hangs up the phone, and then she goes outside, and he's sitting in the limo like 100 yards away, and she's like, "Oh, sorry about that. I'll be right out." Like he could hear her from screaming from the front door, and he's sitting in the limo, so on the other side of the seat. And then then he calls back again, and he's like,
They're gonna
trying
be
to find the
late.
line. Yeah, he's just real rude. He's like, "Hurry up, we're going to be late." And then she gets out there, and he's like the nicest guy in the world. He's like, "Oh my God, I recognize you from like Freddy Krueger movie," and that you know, and he's actually pretty good in that. And then she gets in the car, and he talks her ear off the whole drive about how he saw the movie, and she's getting really, really uncomfortable about it. And then they stop, and then another like PA runs up, and he's like, "Come on, we got to go, 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 go!" And it drags her out of the car, and then they run in, and then suddenly they're in an interview. But I don't know. I'm nitpicking, but I really all that I hate. I hate it a lot.
I uh
I
I
mean, I like the limo driver talking her ear off. I just feel like there's pieces of it that even like when they leave the house, there's like actually like a good like 20 or 30 seconds of just dead air with the Julie and the kid, and there's nothing. I'm like, cut, go to the next scene, go. You know, it's
I don't think it's so much about Wes Craven editing it or having it edited to get to each scene. I think it's more about letting the world kind of breathe. That's why these scenes go on a little bit longer than they should, or you have little snippets in there that you don't really, that like you would probably think they don't need, but they're in there that because Wes is creating the world that he has lived his entire life under, which is New Line Cinema. Like the scene with Sarah, who I can't remember her real name in real life, but she's playing herself, are people that he knows. And even
Yeah.
though you could cut that scene, and for a normal person, it would be perfectly fine, he allows these scenes to stretch on because of the fact that they're people that he had actually worked hand in hand with his entire career. It's the same with the Bob Shea interview at the very beginning. It starts off with Bob Shea talking to someone else on the phone, and he gets off the phone, he talks to her, they have these pleasantries, and then there's the way it's edited. It's like he lets a lot of stuff breathe.
Yeah.
And
But
to
some
take
of the
its time.
but
And
some of the scenes I don't mind it. You know, like when she goes in there, talks to Bob Shea, that's okay. You know, I mean, it's like you're introducing a new character, but it's like when you've seen these characters on screen already. I mean, that house sequence from the beginning, it's like a good like 10 minutes of them being in that house or so before they get into the limo, and it just goes on a really long time before they get to anywhere. And then they get in the limo, it's like it's not like you see like scenes you don't need to see, like her walking out of the door and walking across the yard, and then her getting into the limo, and then it just seems like there's, you know, because really what happens, you just needed to, I mean, getting in the limo and hearing the limo driver talking about Freddie, you definitely needed that. And then she gets onto this interview show, and the interviewer guy's like asking her questions, like odd questions, and she doesn't get to answer any of them. It's like he asked her like what does your son think about Robert England? Would you be okay with him being alone with him? And she's like, what? Well, I would. And then he's like, well, here's another question for you. You know, he just keeps barreling questions. It doesn't even let her save it. It doesn't even give. She never gives like a real answer to any of the questions.
mm-mm.
And then finally, the whole thing's a setup for Robert England to come out there, but it's like what. I don't.
Well, that's what that
Yeah.
I think. Well, my interpretation or my thought is that the thing is that the talk show host doesn't think that his audiences really care about her as much as they think about Freddy Krueger, and he's trying to get to Freddy Krueger as fast as possible. The only way to
Yeah.
do that is to get to those questions, barrel through them, just so he can have the big surprise, which everyone in the audience is waiting for. Which is Robert England showing up as Freddy Krueger at
Yeah.
a talk show.
He comes in like saying all the lines, which that's pretty cool though. And what's not cool is directly after that, it cuts to a scene backstage, which we assume is just after this, and he's completely out of this makeup that
Yeah.
would take you several hours to get out of, and he's in a really fancy suit, and his hair's all nice looking, and he's, you know, everything's cool, and he's like having a conversation with Heather.
Well, I assume that would be the same way that they had Freddy Krueger show up on daytime talk shows when Freddy Krueger was popular. So Freddy Krueger, Robert Egan used to show up on daytime talk shows as Freddy Krueger, dude. So
Yeah, but he wouldn't like immediately be backstage like he just ripped off the makeup because the
I think
makeup was good.
I think they would have did a much quicker version of the makeup for that for a talk show.
Well, maybe I don't know. I mean, because when you're on a talk show, you you have a little bit more time though. You just get up in the morning and it take you like maybe 3 to 4 hours to put it on, and then you just get up early enough to put it on there, and it was going to take a long time to get it off because I mean I've worn makeup similar to that. You know, especially during this time period, you have to like you can't just rip it off. You have to it's all prosthetics and stuff that burn makeup. But you know, again, I'm thinking too much. I'm thinking too much about it. But think about how weird the scene would have been, though, if it cut to that behind the backstage scene, and suddenly he's talking to her in Freddy Krueger makeup, you know, in the back. You know, it just. But at the same time, I think the first time I watched this, I don't think I realized quite what Robert England looked like out of Freddy makeup. So it was
Really?
like, yeah, I wasn't like really like,
Interesting.
yeah, I wasn't necessarily putting it together at first that was him until later on. So,
What about you, Philip? That's interesting. I never thought about that. I'll tell you why, but I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the sequence as much. Yeah, I didn't mind. Like it is for me. It's just like I've seen that in movies a lot. The kind of cringy sometimes, like dialogue, a little bit of like you said, so we can get to the Freddy and stuff. One thing I'm kind of curious on both your opinions on and stuff. This is another thing that's slightly famous. You know, anything behind the scenes of this is the fact that Johnny Depp would have done this movie if Wes Craven asked, but Wes Craven didn't ask him because he was too timid and didn't think he would say yes. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on that and how, if you thought if Johnny Depp did make an appearance, how that would have looked, and also would you think it would have either helped the movie or hindered the movie?
No, I don't think that
Yeah,
anyways. Um,
yeah.
I think the only scene Johnny Depp would have been in was the funeral scene where several actors from the first movie were in.
You
Um,
Well,
think he wouldn't have
I,
been
I
more
don't.
prominent in the movie?
I
no,
think that
because
yeah.
he's not important to the story Wes is telling. Like literally, Robert and John Saxton are really the only two characters that would be very relevant to the story being told.
Well, I
Unless,
mean, he could have been relevant. He would have had to have a larger part. I, to me, I feel like he says you say his timidness, but it's probably like he didn't really have a part for him, and it wasn't going to be really worth his time. And in order, if it was going to be worth his time, he would have to add more scenes to an already very long movie.
well, Johnny Depp did come back for Freddy's Dead though for like a two
Yeah.
second scene.
Well,
So
I mean, that's different though, because that one's more of a horror movie. This one's like a slow burn, like a kind of thriller in a way, and
yeah,
it's like the only because it never like you never see like I mean you do see John Saxon's character become her dad later on, but I don't know how it would have placed in there because we already have, like you said, we already have John Saxon.
the funeral. The
Yeah, I mean he
chances
could.
if you did you not notice there are people from the first movie in
Yeah,
the funeral scene.
yeah, but I'm saying it wouldn't be worth his time just to stand there in the funeral because there's a lot of people in that one,
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of people.
we also see Wes Craven again. Um, and it's the second scene that he's in of three that he at the end of it is kind of looking a little squirrely looking, which he needed to be doing since that's what he's been writing the script. But at the same time, that has Robert Englund in it coming, and we introduced John Saxon as himself in that scene,
Yeah.
and you have Robert Englund come back up to her. She's starting to get a little freaked out about Robert Englund in general. I think she just feels a little uneasy about him because of the weird stuff that's been going on with Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Um shit, I had a thought and then I forgot it. Damn it. That happens sometimes.
But no, that funeral scene is awesome though. Especially that's one of my favorite scenes. Like the coffin thing when she falls and hits her head because of the earthquake, and then he's in the coffin and she has to go into the coffin and get the kid back out. That part's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good sequence.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Uh
and I really like John Saxon anyway. It's good
I
that they
love
brought
John
him
Saxon.
into it. Yeah. And I really any scene he's in, I didn't care if it was too long. It was like it was fine. Yeah. But I mean,
Uh
it's not even to me like the scenes that were too long or like some of the scenes that were just between her and the kid. Not that the acting's not bad. I mean, the acting's not bad. Not that the acting is not good. It's just I just felt that they were drawn out and just some parts I just were I just felt like the wind was being sucked out of the film.
hmm.
But that's me. You clearly like it a lot.
Well, what about you, Philip?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the middle with you guys of like there's a lot of things I like about it. There are some things that I was like, okay with. Like again, um I was here and there with the design again for Freddy. And then again, I did feel like I was a little disappointed that any kills we got, it was just more remnant of, oh, it's the kill from the first movie. And it's like I would have, especially because again, that's the Nightmare series is so famous for having very out there and cool deaths. The fact that this time around there wasn't anything like that was particularly interesting. It did kind of bog down because yeah, again, it did feel at times when there was a death in the movie, it felt like they had to add it there to like Julie's death. While again, it's a cool sequence, it was just there because they probably got told like, hey, we need to have another death in here because like Chase's death made a little sense. And it got to a good sequence with the funeral, but again, stuff like Julie's death, it felt like, yeah, we need to have another death in here because I think people were getting kind of bored, and I think that's why, again, like the movie didn't do so well. Also, is because I don't think there was a lot of rewatchability probably for big horror, like not like big horror, but if they're coming for Nightmare on Elm Street for the kills and stuff, this is not the movie for the kills. This is the movie for the story and the dialogue. But if you're not a big fan like Dave was, it's like, yeah, there's nothing really else to come back to because it's nothing else that really is impressive.
I mean, I'm not like in movies. I don't mind dialogue. I just thought this one, like a movie that I think is a slow burn that's really good is Rosemary's Baby. Where that one is like heavy dialogue and slow moving, but I think that one's effective. Some things that, like you're saying, the deaths, there's not enough of them because you're used to them, and there's probably too many of them for it to be doing what it was trying to do originally, because you see the deaths and there's not enough of them, but without the deaths in there at all, it would probably read a little better when you're watching it. Back like this, here's an example when she finds out her husband's dead, there's a knock at the door, and she goes and talks to the cops at the door, and they have to tell her that her husband died, and that scene is unnecessary because the next scene we see her walk into the morgue and see her husband, because all she had to do is knock at the door, there's cops at the door, walk towards the door, oh shit, and then walks into the morgue. But all of that's like Kevin was saying, all of that breathes so much. And it seems like sometimes it's just like these people, they just want to give these people like a scene, when she goes and talks to the morgue attendant who's played by W. Earl Brown from Deadwood. He played like Dan Doherty on Deadwood. Well, I don't mind that scene because that scene is pretty gruesome because he's showing her the body, and then she sees the claw marks on his chest, and that's important. But some of her finding out about him initial death, it's like that's like a soap opera scene to me.
So I believe that scene is there because that is one of the earliest scenes in the film in which Heather doesn't realize that what she's dreaming is actually what's also happening in the real world. So that is a confirmation for her that what she's been dreaming is bleeding into the real world. Not the morgue scene. The morgue scene doesn't do that for her character. The morgue
she does see the claw marks though on his chest, which makes him,
but to have that reference point before then is I think is the reason why it's there. This is why I do agree with you. That scene does go on a little bit longer than you would expect it to go on. But I think that was the whole reason for that. I think the claw marks is more of a shock value for the audience because there's not a lot of shock value in this movie at all. I don't think that you're always correct with the amount of deaths and kills in these movies because, to be honest with you, some of the other Friday 13, God damn it, guys, Nightmare on Elm Street movies do not have that many kills either. They're just more creative. Like this movie,
I think that's the thing is if the kills were more creative, my complaint would be a little less.
So the thing is, yeah, like I said, I think part 5 only has like 5 deaths. This movie has 4 people get killed that aren't the main characters. Like this movie is like right along the lines of some of the other sequels. It doesn't go too crazy with them, but they're not creative. They are callbacks to mostly the first film. And I think that's deliberate on Wes Craven's part because there's so many visual cues in this movie that are callbacks to the very first film. I think that's more of a reason for him like being, I hate what you fuckers did with the sequels to my creation, and I'm just going to tell you how to do it right. I don't think he ever liked the fact that the way that Freddy had to kill people in creative ways for all the sequels. But there's no denying, like you said, Philip, that some of them sequels have some damn good kills in them. And we do remember the kills. And I guarantee you on any list of top 10 kills, you will find none of them from this movie in that list. I guarantee you that. I do agree with you on that. But I think that's deliberate. I don't think he wanted to be like the other films on purpose. And I think that was what hurt the movie, because so many people were like, I was the same way when I first saw the film. I was like, okay, this is a great callback to the original film, but I was still riding high off of. I'm gonna skip Freddy's Dead because I fucking hate that movie. Of the Dream Child, which I actually like, but so many people fucking hate. But I really hated Freddy's Dead, so.
I think it's a bad movie, but I like it though. I could watch that one.
Freddy's Dead has only grown on me because I've read a lot of stuff from the director Rachel Talalay, who has been on the whole Freddy franchise. I think this is the second film. So she's involved with the Freddy franchise from the very beginning, pretty much, and they allowed her the opportunity to direct that film, and that's fine because she also did Tank Girl, I believe, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't like that movie.
I even had a comic book to that movie that had the 3D scene. It had the glasses, you could see the 3D thing. It's kind of cool the way they did the end in 3D. It's kind of weird they only did the end in 3D. But...
It would cost an arm and a leg to do the whole movie in 3D back then. I doubt anyone would want to go see the whole movie in 3D.
Yeah. It's like, wait. There's like a certain point, they're like, when Freddy puts his glasses on, you put your 3D glasses on then.
So I do believe that a lot of this movie, like for both of you, it's one of those movies where your expectations for what a franchise it's in the seventh film should be it's not there. And I think that was why he so desperately called it Wes Craven's New Nightmare and not A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7. I can also see the pushback from New Line Cinema saying, well, we needed to appeal to the Freddy fans. So we need to have this, and this. While you can also keep your that. We need this, and this so we can sell it as a Freddy movie. I guarantee you there was a lot of pushback on this movie, despite the fact that a lot of New Line Cinema people were in the movie. So, but he's Wes Craven, and then of course, keeping in mind with Wes Craven, he was also in that weird time period where he was trying to not be pigeonholed as a horror director, because after he did this, he did Vampire in Brooklyn, where he was trying to make a comedy. And Eddie Murphy wanted to make a horror film, so they kind of clashed on that one. The results are anyone's business. And then a few years later, he would get the opportunity to do Music of the Heart, which is a non-horror movie. And he only got that because the studio said, okay, you did this for me. We're going to let you do your little movie, your small little movie with Meryl Streep. There you go. Do your 50 violins / Music of the Heart, and then we'll get you back in horror next time. So, it's one of those things. I think at the time he was just trying not to be pigeonholed as a horror director, so he tried to do something more.
When they start describing how, which I like the idea. It's a very Stephen King idea, though, that he's like, I have these stories because I have nightmares. All the Freddy movies that I've worked on or all his horror movies have come from nightmares. It's like I believe it's a Stephen King thing, if I'm not mistaken. It's very. Kind of seems like it's definitely like the Dark Half and the Secret Window. Secret Window. Yeah. Those two are very, very much like that. This does seem to come from something else too. But
he said that before too in real life in the interview.
Oh, he said it in real life.
Yeah, he said it in real life.
Okay. Well, at least that's true. Yeah, I thought he was just completely like taking Stephen King's autobiography and saying.
Nah, which is why he didn't write so much in his later years. He just stopped writing pretty much in his later years. He kind of
stopped having nightmares.
Yeah, so a lot of those, and that's the other thing. This was a passion project. Passion projects do that to directors and filmmakers and storytellers. You put a lot of yourself into them, and sometimes the audiences just don't get what you're trying to sell. M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water was a passion project. There's very little people who got what he was trying to craft in that movie. It happened.
I tried with that one, man. I never even finished that movie.
The story behind that movie is exactly like this one. It is about a character who is a storyteller trying to tell a story that's new. It's a new mythology. M. Night Shyamalan, as the writer, is also in the main movie as one of the main characters, and he's trying to tell a story with background and mythology that no one's ever heard of, so he has to over-explain. And that's what happens in this one too. From your perspective, he over-explains. Wes Craven over-explains because he's trying to not be a Freddy Krueger movie. He's trying to create something new. And in order for, I think we all do this if we have a passion project, we tend to over-explain stuff because it's a passion project. He did not do that with Cursed. He kind of left that. Okay, I'm done. I'm going on to the next project. Do whatever the hell you want to. That wasn't the passion project.
Yeah. Well, Kurt's actually, he didn't get out of that one that easy, though. That was the one that they kept making him reshoot it. He shot it.
He shot it, but he didn't go back for the last reshoots. Yeah. He walked away. He didn't go back to the last reshoots. He went on to this next movie. He was tired of New Line. I think it was New Line. I think it was
the Weinsteins were involved with that. They were the ones that were making him. They were the ones that were making him reshoot stuff. I'm sure he was. That messed him up, though. I mean, that type of thing will mess you up. Someone telling you to reshoot the movie over and over again. He said they probably, what was her name? Julie, not Ben.
Oh yeah, they changed her character while they were making the movie. So yeah.
What was her name?
Oh, shit, I love that actress.
She's in Jurassic World. Shit.
You made me forget.
Yeah. But anyway, there's an interview with her who says she was like, I don't know why they just kept fucking with that movie. It was pretty good the first time, and then suddenly they're changing people's relationships.
Yeah, they changed a lot.
She's like, I felt like I shot that movie like 4 or 5 times.
It's like The Exorcist 4. We got 2 versions of it out there.
She was in Halloween too.
Yes, she's the only good part in the first Halloween. Then they killed her off in the second one, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember. I hated those movies after they killed her off. I thought she was one of the best actresses in that fucking movie. But
yeah, let me jump into a scene here. About 42 minutes into this thing, so she's meeting with John Saxon in the park, and it's one of these parent moments when the kid goes up on this really high playground thing. I think now people will be having a conversation. Now they'll be on their cell phone looking at the cell phone while the kid's doing this. But some reason they have a really high treehouse thing, and he climbs up to the top of it and jumps off, and the mom has to run and catch him. Meanwhile, she's like, John Saxon's trying to tell her that there's nothing wrong with the son and everything's fine, not to worry about it. And suddenly the kid's like diving to his death or trying to.
Well, and they discuss the mental, and this is where the movie and the real world mixes as well. The mental, mental illness that can be traced down from generation to generation. If you remember in the original movie, Nancy's mother had mental illness in the original movie, and then in this movie, you see John Saxon talking to Heather about mental illness and her parents and how that might be passed down to Dylan.
He said he says a close relative was in an institution.
Yeah,
during one part of it, but then back at the house after that, then she gets a mail. I kind of like this stuff. Like she gets, I like the phone calls too, but she gets a letter in the mail. She opens it. It has the letter E in it, and you're like, what's going on with these letters? It's the first time you see it. She opens up a drawer and puts it with some other ones, and then. She tries to call Robert Englund. I guess she's been trying to avoid him, and now she wants to talk to him. And they have a conversation that ends with him saying that they're going to meet up, but he wants to get off the phone. And he's painting like a really weird painting. It looks like souls from Freddy, and at the top of it is like a monster looking like Freddy at the top.
Mm-hmm.
A slight nitpick. After that scene, at the end of the scene, they hang up. They do one of those movie hang ups where they don't say bye. She's like, "Take care," hangs up, and then he's like sitting there. No, she's like, "Take care," and he's like, "Yeah, sure," hangs up. It's like one of those like I notice it all the time in movies where they don't say bye. It's like that's not how people get off the friggin' phone.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dave. That's how I always, whenever I finish my dialogue on a conversation, I hang up immediately. I don't even say, "Well, see ya."
Yeah.
That's a movie thing. That never bothers me though. That has never bothered me. It's kind of like watching a movie, a horror movie, and seeing all the blue skies at night. You get used to seeing the movie look. or when it goes from daylight in one scene and they literally cut to another location right afterwards and it's dark because this scene thematically needs to take place at night, not during the day.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I do. I don't know if you have any more stuff to talk about before the end of the movie. I do want to talk about when we talk about CGI. I do want to talk about the ending with that and stuff. I don't know if you have any more nitpicks before we get to that.
Yeah.
I'm letting Dave pull out the nitpicks.
Well, I'm just looking through my notes on the scenes that are more interesting. We talked about he ends up in the hospital, and then now this is like that doctor's Dr. Hefner.
Yeah.
She really annoys me a lot. Like every time she's on screen, she's like comes in and she's like convinced that the films are making the child unstable, and
Yeah.
she just like she's one of those characters that just is like way up in the business in a really unrealistic way and doesn't seem to want to listen, and it's just like it's like she's already made up her mind that she's shown the kid the movies and that's what's causing this kid to have these like seizures, these epileptic seizures. Even the first thing she's asked, is there a history of epilepsy? And then it goes from that to he must have watched a Freddy Krueger movie.
Well, I don't know if it's because of it, but the backstory of that character is the name is derived from a MPAA chief officer Richard Hefner and stuff, who Wes Craven hated, and so that might be why you hate the character and stuff, and all. It might be Wes Craven was again because the character was supposed to be dig at that person.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's like every time she's on screen, I'm like mad at the way she's acting. Though it's like,
well, like I said, she's like the conservative view that kids and no one should be watching that type of horror film. And because she was in the horror film Freddy Krueger, her first reaction is, "Have you been letting your kid watch your movies? Not horror movies." She says, "Has she been letting her kid watch her movies?" As though she is a bad parent for letting her kid watch those type of movies.
Well, she does actually qualify. She says, "Have you been letting her watch your movies?" And then she's like, "Your horror movies." She does say that, but I don't know. I guess you guys like the character. I hate the character.
No, I understand what the character I see exactly what is like the purpose of that character, because with Heather, the first thing that doctor says is like, or the thing that the doctor kind of, whenever she comes on screen, is that she is against those type of movies, that type of ideology, and she sees that maybe Heather is not a good parent, and then it's only cemented when Heather falls asleep and has that huge reaction when her son's gone, and she mentions that Freddy Krueger is after her son. Now, up until that point, it's not a big deal for her. It's not a big deal for the doctor. It's the moment that she says that Freddy Krueger from her movies is after her son that she thinks that there is something wrong with this woman, and that she calls the security to come in. And then she asks the question.
I wish the performance had been a little more subtle. Just like I like it getting big later on, but it's like it's big the whole time. She starts out big. The only time she's not big is when she asks if she has a history of epilepsy, and then when she latches on to that, I mean, it would have been like better if it was like started out more of a casual, like type of like nice doctor, and then she's like she finds out from talking to her that she did see that he did maybe see the films, and then all of a sudden flip on her and start being this really crazy character. Now it does look cool during the one scene where she's briefly Freddy, and she kind of looks a little bit like intense, like a Freddy type of character. She brings up the claw, and she's got a claw briefly before it turns all the way into Freddy. I do like that. That's pretty cool.
No, I like that too. I thought that was very. I like that. It allows that actor and that character to be seen in a different light when she turns to Freddy, which is something that happens in the very first movie too, where other people become Freddy and all that type of stuff. So like I said, there's a lot of call. You're right. I mean, Wes Craven does do a lot of callbacks to his original movie. I think that's all deliberate They really do.
Yeah.
But I do want to eventually get to the part that you want to get to, Philip, which is the CGI and the ending.
Well, yeah,
But
this is
let Dave,
yeah.
yeah,
CGI. So the CGI scene that before the ending, we're talking about that road scene. Like the kid ends up after the Julie character is killed, he ends up getting out of the friggin' hospital and sleepwalking. And the doctor, she's like, tells the doctor, she's like, "You're an idiot. You don't even know that he sleepwalks, even though he's, so it's weird that the doctor didn't know that he sleepwalks. It was because the doctor won't listen to her. She
yeah.
won't listen to anything that she says. She's already made up her mind and she thinks she knows what needs to happen. But
I will say, in
yeah,
fairness,
yeah.
sometimes I can say this for personal experience. Tracy says I've seen sometimes doctors are like that, where they think they're right, and no matter what the patient says, they're just going to, ignore them. That
Yeah,
actually
watch
is.
House. Haven't you ever watched the show House? Oh,
Yeah, I like House. Man, I have copies of that. It's a great show, but he's like Sherlock Holmes. But all right, so then he goes. So he does sleepwalk, and then there's like a voiceover, just so the audience knows. There's a voiceover from earlier that says, "Oh, our house is really close to the hospital." You know, it's definitely one of those. That was probably what they're watching the movie, and they're like somebody made that comment probably at a test screening, like, "Why is the house right by the hospital?" And they're like, "Oh, we got to add something in there, like a voiceover."
that was it. But she tells her son that earlier in the movie, though.
I know it, but but it's just funny the way they play it over the scene, just so you're like as an audience member not thinking, what? How is he that? The kid's just going to walk from the It's still a long walk. They have to walk all the way through the hospital parking lot and then cross the interstate and then into the. But he's crossing the interstate and that's when it gets really dicey and Freddy comes out, which it looks a lot like maybe the puppet from the third one, like when he does
Yeah,
the puppet guy, which he
Yeah.
picks the kid up and he brings him across the road. I guess they had to get the kid back to the house. That's why that's why they had to have this big. That scene goes on a long time, and the cars are going so fast, and they're not hitting either one of the main characters. Like she's in the middle of the road, he's in the middle of the road. She finally does. One of them does hit Nancy, but it's doesn't hurt her because I guess they already almost stopped. But
Well,
I don't know.
it's the John Wick thing of like,
oh no, she
they
gets
get
hurt.
hit. They
She's
may.
limping when she goes back home, dude. She's walking from that whole incident and she's
Yeah.
limping the
But I
entire
mean,
way.
you get ran over something about a truck on the interstate though, you're gonna be creamed. But look, I think it
I'm
was a lot slower.
I mean, again, it's the John Wick thing of we got to make sure that they got a little hurt. We see them limp a little bit, and then eventually they get over it.
Yeah, yeah. It's all good. He got hit by a fucking semi truck, but or whatever kind of truck. It's like a pickup truck, I guess. He actually goes over the hood and then falls onto the ground.
Yeah.
It's all good though.
Well, the
No
only thing
issue with that.
I did not like about that sequence, is when the Dylan character looks up after the crash and he sees the Thousand Freddy's. That scene is cut from the original, from not only the trailer, but also from like the comic book and everything. That scene should have gone on much longer, but I don't know why they cut it. Like it's literally just a couple seconds.
Well, that's another sequence that got cut up a lot because
Yeah, it got cut
originally
up.
Freddy was supposed to come, like Freddy was supposed to be driving one of the cars in a very and was supposed to have the red and green inspired stuff, and was supposed to have like claws. It was supposed to be a really gnarly looking like car, like design and stuff. And again, it ended up getting cut.
Yeah, it's like that was like really weird. I actually liked that shot with all the Freddy's in it. That was kind of cool.
It's too short. It's like
Yeah.
you blink and you miss it in the actual movie. And I always thought that either needed to be cut completely or have lasted a little bit longer. There's something wrong with that timing of that one thing there for me.
Yeah.
And
That
when
was,
I
yeah.
rewatched the movie, I didn't like it again either. So that stuck with me.
Thought it was
The last,
it was weird, but that whole sequence aggravates me. It looks like a video game almost in some parts of it. It's just really really bizarre. I thought it
Well,
was
it's
kind
just
of
like again, it's one of those things of it just goes on
yeah.
way too long.
so how do you have a problem with the length of it? Of course, I also think that this is and this is where my music thing comes in. This is my favorite sequence with the score. The score fits this sequence fucking perfectly, in my opinion. It's one of the most dynamic sequences in the film with the score attached to it. And so I don't think it ever went too long. I think this is like the, what do you call it? The sequence right before you get to the main set piece. Like you're ramping up your audience before you get to your main sequence, which is them going into Freddy's lair. And that's what this is. You've watched a movie that, for the most part, from what you both have said, is very subtle. It's not very subtle. This last act goes by extremely fast. You get Julie's death scene, then you get the going across the freeway, and then you get to Freddy's domain at the very end for the last 10, 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now when they're going across the highway, it's like an hour and 23 minutes into it.
Yeah.
It's about an hour and 52-minute movie.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot left after this, really. But this, I mean, when you say it's long, I think that the reason it feels long is because the kid's not going to get hit by one of the trucks.
Yeah.
He's not going to. So it's like, okay, how long are we going to stretch this out? Now, she luckily does. Not luckily, but it's nice that she gets hit a little bit, because it would have been real ridiculous if neither one of them got hit. But even when she's getting hit, the kid's still like walking across the road, and the cars are still flying by him like friggin' like was it Frogger when they fly by really fast?
Yeah, the game
like
Frogger.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. I forget which one of you mentioned Frogger. It's interesting. I never thought about that until you guys.
Yeah, it looks like Frogger, man. Frogger gets getting faster like the longer you play it.
Yeah, the cars get faster.
Yeah. Yeah. But then finally they get back to the house, and we know that's where we want to get to anyway, because we know that's where it's going to get into the end sequence. And what's cool is when she gets there, like before she gets there, she randomly calls John Saxon on the phone and asks him to come over, which is really bizarre. And he kind of like gets kind of freaked out by what she says, and he's like kind of like not going to do it. But when she gets there, he's at the house, but it's not him anymore. It's her dad from the movie. And I guess technically she kind of becomes Nancy at that part too.
She becomes when she becomes Nancy, that's when Freddy comes into the real world. And so you see that it cuts back and forth when I really like that sequence when John Saxton as her father is talking to Heather, and they're wondering why they're calling each other the wrong names. And you got to remember, Wes Craven's already set that up earlier. Wes Craven says the only way to bury or get rid of or trap the monster is for her to take on the role of Nancy one last time.
Right.
The moment she does, you see Freddy jump out of the bed because he's waiting. He's waiting. He's waiting. I'm not 100% sure why he's waiting for Heather to become Nancy, because then you kind of get the impression that he wants to be trapped again.
He wants to fight. They call her like a gatekeeper or something. That's what he says. That's what Wes Craven says. He's a gatekeeper during the exposition dump that he does. Yeah. But one scene we didn't mention though earlier, where we see Freddy really good, when she's at her house in between hospital. The kid's in the hospital. She's back at her house by herself, and she goes to the closet, and suddenly he comes out of the closet and knocks her back over the chair. There's a really good fight between them at that part in the movie. It's about halfway through, and then it ends up with him slicing her arm, that she has a cut when she goes back in. The doctor's working on like putting the cut. That's a pretty good scene. I like that. I like that part.
No, you're right. We did skip over that sequence, and that's what helps the doctor's case, thinking that Nancy's a danger to herself and to her kid. So it's very important that we did come to that, because up until that point, the doctor really couldn't say if Heather was a danger to her own son until then. Like, she's got this cut that she was hiding from the doctors until it starts bleeding on her. It
keeps bleeding more. The doctor puts a wrapper around it, and then later on it's just gushing out some more blood. It's kind of cool, all that. I like that.
But back at the house with Heather and John Saxton, I really love the fact that that they have this interchange where Saxton is her father and she's still Heather until she calls him daddy. and then that's when we see Freddy Krueger come out of the bed completely. And we have to assume that at that point, that's when he's able to take Dylan into his world.
Right.
And of course, Heather has to follow. But it's cool because once they step outside, you see Heather back in Nancy's outfit from the original movie. And you see John Saxon is completely dressed like her father from the original movie, except that he's not driving across the street to what's his face's house. He's driving down the street and out of the story, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, earlier, one of the scenes between the mom and the kid that they do establish the bed thing and this idea about you sliding under the bed. It's really not necessary, I don't think, to have that long scene earlier in the film to establish this. But I guess she starts taking the pills. There's pills all over the house, and that's what makes her go into the dream because she has to go into the dream world. And she does what the kid talked about earlier. Goes under the covers, and then there's like a slide, and it comes out of this big Freddy statue mouth, which is a cool little set piece there. Falls into a pool of water.
Yeah.
And this world is not Freddy's world. It's like some kind of weird ancient sort of stuff on the wall, bunch of columns.
I see this as the demon that inhabits the Freddy persona's world. I was trying to decipher some of this earlier, but I couldn't figure it all out because the only words I caught that are plastered on there are shit. I made a note of it, so I want to see if you guys lust and anger. Lust and anger are on the columns, are on the walls in this persona. And I can imagine there are more, but I just didn't catch them.
Probably the deadly sins or something on there.
That's what I was thinking at first, but I don't think anger is one of the 7 deadly sins, is it? Lust is. Shit. I should have looked that up. I didn't have enough time.
I know wrath is the last
Wrath,
one.
sloth.
Wrath is kind of like anger.
Yeah, but it would be cooler just to put wrath there than fucking anger.
Yeah.
Like it would be much cooler. But yeah, pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. Not anger. But I wish I could. There was like a book. Like there was like tons of books now on the making of movies and all this shit, but I don't know if there is one on Wes Craven's New Nightmare to go back and see some of the production design, because I think the set piece at the very end of the film is the most dynamic set piece in the entire film, and it's the most interesting one.
Oh, it definitely is.
And we only spend a little bit. We spend the last actor here, but it feels like it's filled with so much stuff that we are not privy to. Just casually watching it.
She finds the script on the ground for the movie that Wes has been writing, and she starts to read it, and she sees the dialogue, and she says, here's what she reads part of it out loud. She says, she realized that everything she had experienced was bound within these pages. There was no movie. There was only her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when she truly becomes Nancy at that point. And then Dylan finds her after that happens. Dylan shows back up, and then there's like a bunch of stuff with some snakes hanging around, and then they take a snake and then they shove it into Freddy's eye. And
it's so funny how there's a couple of snake sequences in the movie because it's mostly in the end there. It's just funny.
Yeah. There's like I don't know what's up with the snakes. It's like, but they're I don't know.
There's got to be stuff in there, like I said, that was cut out or stuff that are more on a design level that we're just not privy to. Because I thought the same thing about that sequence with I thought they were eels. I didn't look at them as snakes. I thought they were eels. I don't know what they are. Now you got me now second guessing me.
Yeah. Well, it could be like a biblical meaning, almost like the snake in the Adam and Eve story that.
I don't know about that one. That might be stretching a little bit.
Yeah. But they're generally considered like evil, the snakes in some stories.
Because I always thought they were too small to be snakes. You very well could be. They could be snakes. I just always saw them as eels. So it's interesting.
They're Slytherin, man. An eel's kind of a snake.
Well, so and there's different types. So you very well could be lots of different snakes. Because they don't all look the same. It's just it's funny. when this movie has very little of that Freddy Krueger humor, it's funny when she takes one of them and then throws it or points it in Freddy's eye.
Yeah, what's weird about the sequence, because we've been assuming, I mean, we've been kind of thinking this is Freddy, but he has the different weaknesses that Freddy actually ever had, because he actually gets hurt by some of this stuff. Freddy Krueger doesn't normally get hurt with this sort of thing, because especially when they split his tongue open and then his tongue is still messed up and he's sitting there screaming like wow, they just split my tongue open. Because that's not something that would normally hurt him that much. He would just heal back immediately. But it seems like they're able to hurt him in this.
Yeah.
This is unrelated to what I just said, but I have a note about his wardrobe here. He has no hat, but he has the black trench coat, so he's bald during this part of the film.
That's because it probably look weird if his hat falls off while he's trying to swallow Dylan's head.
Yeah.
Which I still find hilariously. I thought that was this end sequence has a lot of odd sequences for me, even though I love the movie. The whole sequence with Freddy trying to swallow his head. Unless that, and I have to go back and reread the fucking story. Unless that
does happen in one of the, like, not in the first one, but it does happen in another, like.
Well, yeah, it happened in the third one.
He also does, before that, he does an extended arm thing that's similar to the first film, where he's trying to get Dylan and his arms extending out like go gadget arm sort of thing. Which I mean, it looks pretty cool in this. And there's also a part where Nancy's trying to get in there. It seems like she's gotten hurt and she gets knocked into the water, and then she's trying to climb up these stairs that are melting as she's climbing up the stairs. And then which that's a cool. And then they have this knife that they find in there. That knife seems to have some kind of, I don't know if there's a scene where they get it, but that knife seems to cause a lot of damage. It seems like every time they stab him anywhere with that knife, it's like a major hit for him. It's like that is his kryptonite.
That's his kryptonite is a knife.
yeah. with no like introduction to it or anything. I don't even know where they get it from.
She takes the knife. Yeah, there is. She gets the knife in the kitchen when she walks in her house.
So it's just a kitchen knife?
Yeah, it's just a kitchen knife.
Yeah,
she keeps it with her. Oh, I think she loses it at one spot. I can't remember why, but that's where she gets it. She gets it, and she has it when she's sliding down at the tunnel, / the bed tunnel into Freddy's world. She has the knife when she's sliding down.
So she takes it from the house, but it's odd that it's so powerful of a tool to use against him, or a weapon to use against him.
Just a knife, dude.
It's just a normal demon. He just,
So yeah, I had to look it up just to be on the safe side, guys. But I wanted to make, because the whole eating the child's head, I keep forgetting that that's actually probably another callback to Hansel and Gretel. So it's the whole point of fucking Hansel and Gretel, the witch trying to eat the kids. And I think that's probably why he does that. It's just odd that he opens his mouth really wide to try and swallow his head.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Maybe that was his whole thing, was to get the kid, but it seemed like he had the kid. Definitely had the kid several times before she even got in there. I mean, how was the kid even getting away from him after he was in the world, before she came in there to save him?
Heck if I know, dude. The only thing I can tell you from a fact is that in theory, Dylan wasn't getting into Freddy's lair. Freddy couldn't get to Dylan because Rex was protecting him, and of course we see Rex torn up. Heather,
Rex is the dinosaur stuffed animal.
Sees the dinosaur stuffed animal torn up before she goes down into the tunnel herself. Now, it's not that much time in between when Heather has taken on that role of Nancy, and then she discovers that Dylan is missing, and she chases after him. It's not like that long of time. So maybe
how long does it take to eat a kid's head, though?
Hey! Dylan's very resourceful, dude. Dylan's very resourceful. He's very resourceful. That's all I can say on that one.
Yeah.
You're right. Like you think that if Freddy drags him into his world, now that he has him, he could probably just eat him right then and there. But he does it because obviously Dylan comes running up to his Heather when she's down there, and then they have to have that big fight. Who
Yeah.
knows? We don't get to see that part. We're seeing the movie from Heather's perspective.
So yeah, I mean, that's one thing about this whole end sequence. I think that kind of is taking me out of it a little bit is that we're only dealing with two characters here, and we know that probably neither one of them's going to die the whole time. So it kind of takes a little bit of the suspense out of the whole endeavor for going into this world.
Well, it comes to the thing of like, again, we know good's going to triumph over evil, so it's one of those weird padding times where it's like he can't be too effective when it's one of the main characters, because so it just yeah.
It would have been nice if they brought more characters in there with them, so the other characters could have gotten killed. So at least that could be going on. But it's, I mean, this doesn't have the ending of In the Mouth of Madness. This has the exact opposite ending of that film because they're able to stop him, which is we want them to stop him, but at the same time we're thinking, okay, they're getting out of this. And then after they split his tongue, which seems to be kind of his undoing, then they catch him on fire, and that's what ends up killing him all the way. Where they open the oven and catch him on fire, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what he turns into, the devil creature with the ancient
What
horns.
What now we go to the thing I've been wanting to say for a little while
Yeah.
about the CG. Yeah, I personally did not like the effect of that. I think it doesn't also help that it's very quick. It
Yes.
doesn't look the best. And then they zoom in on it after too, like for a brief millisecond.
Yeah,
It makes it look even worse.
The eyes look really weird when they zoom in on it, and this is the one sequence where I will agree with you. This is the one where the CGI looks the worst because it seems so dated, and I don't even think it's dated. It was dated when I saw it in the theater in '94. I did not like that. The look of the demon. I'm like, yes, you should have shown what the original ancient demon was, because I got that impression from the world, the Freddy's Lair world. I just wanted to see that demon more. But I think it would have been more effective if instead of us seeing Freddy when Heather falls through the Freddy head, it would have been something either more ancient or the demon that you're looking for. To be that, like, the end of the sequence should not be referencing both Freddy and the demon that is inside the Freddy character. I think it should have been very much the demon's world. And the demon needed to be, if you're gonna do a morph, but then go into a practical fucking monster before you kill the monster.
Wes Craven does say that he's been playing Freddy and he likes being Freddy, so that it makes sense that he stays Freddy, but it would have been nice to see the demon looking better and on screen for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think it's too quick and it's not very effective when you say, Philip, these do the zoom in because it looks really bad. It looked bad when I originally saw the movie, but maybe they cut it so short because it looked so bad and they couldn't go back and reshoot it. I wish I knew. I could see it, that it looked bad when they were doing the movie and they didn't have time to go back in and fix it. And so they just kept it and they just cut it to be faster. Because to be honest with you, that's the only sequence that may have gone too fast. It is that whole reveal of the monster. And by the time you get to the ending of the movie, I think it would have been more effective if we saw the demon that inhabited the Freddy persona and not what the hell we got.
Yeah.
I say that from the very first time I saw this movie to now, that's still the weakest element for me of this film, is that monster, because I'm wanting it to be a really cool ancient practical effect monster, and that's not what we got.
That's I mean, it was kind of it's part of the makeup was okay. It's just when it started to to get into the computer animated part of it,
Yeah.
it started to turn into part of it looked fine. Then all of a sudden it was like, okay, that just went to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's good that they blow it up.
Yeah, yeah. So that gets them out. They actually jump into a pool of water, and then gets them out of there, and they end up back in the bed. And I wrote down something which I didn't realize what it meant when I wrote it down. Now that you've said it earlier, the kid actually says, "We're saved. The witch is dead."
Hmm.
Did you know he said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought that was the weirdest thing. I was like, why the hell did he say that? Of course, it should have looked like a damn witch when it changed. So,
That probably would have made it more effective too. You're
yeah,
probably 100% right. So they could have come up with a really cool practical witch effect or something to make it much better. But
everyone would have been real confused then too.
well, yeah, but yeah, it depends if you picked up on the whole Hansel and Gretel explanation
Yeah.
for the whole for the
Ye-
story that Wes Craven is crafting. You would know that the witch, and depending on the story, the version of Hansel and Gretel that you read or watch, the witch can change into different forms, and so it
Yeah.
makes sense that that Dylan calls it a witch and not Freddy at the
Yeah,
very
but
end.
somehow the kid knew it was a witch. You ever see Freeway 2?
I have not seen Freeway
Yeah,
2. I've only seen
yeah,
Freeway.
yeah. Well, Freeway One's based on the big Riding Hood and the
Yeah,
Big
Red
Bad
Riding.
Wolf. That one's Hansel and Gretel, which is kind of it
Really?
kind of made me think about that because they it's kind of cool the way they put those in urban settings like that.
Oh, now
And
I need to go watch it. I kind of
yeah.
avoided that one.
Uh,
I haven't seen it
I'm
yet.
not going to say it's a good movie, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was better than you would think that it is.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and the witch is pretty cool at the end.
Yeah, and I think some of this is also the reason why people are only now appreciating what Wes Craven was trying to do, and not when the movie came out because there were so many expectations for what they wanted. Uh,
Yeah.
I got the Hansel and Gretel thing the very first time I watched the movie, and that's for me. I thought it was very overt. For me, I thought it was very overt. I thought it was in there. But maybe not a lot of people got it. I just now us talking wish that it had been more of a witch at the end that we saw, and there had been more references to a witch as opposed to
Yeah.
a demon or
Right. Yeah. I mean, I
entity.
think people would have been really confused had it been a witch, unless during that conversation with Wes Craven when he explains everything, unless he dropped it in there
He
somewhere.
just says entity, and I kind of
Yeah.
I think that was the easier way to just create whatever the hell he wanted to for the big reveal at the end.
Yeah. He
Uh,
had.
I think it would have, and it's a little cliche. I think what would have helped a little bit was during that sequence. You kind of said a little bit earlier, Kevin, like with the when Wes Craven's kind of like talking about it instead of just calling it an entity,
yeah,
getting like the stereotypical like images of like he pulls a book and like oh you see an ancient history blah 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 and it's taken many forms like I think he doesn't I think he was trying to not overly explain. I think
yeah.
because he keeps it too vague. I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people didn't pick it up about the Hansel and Gretel stuff. Because even I like honestly didn't really think about it until you made a point. I'm like, okay, I can see that. I think both me and Dave were both like that of like, I think we didn't see it. And it's like, I think they needed they needed more time to explain it a little bit more. Like, there's a lot of this movie where they try to over-explain, but he didn't over-explain the one thing that would have been nice if he over-explained.
Yeah.
For me, I picked up on it. I don't think that that's the problem. I think the problem is there's an expectation of a Freddy movie. Like, but people going to go see a Freddy movie are not necessarily looking for the deepest uh characterizations and story. They're looking for Freddy to kill in creative ways. And as you both have pointed out, that's not really what's in this movie at all. This is a very different entity. If he had this is Halloween 3 season of the witch. If they hadn't called it fucking Halloween, everyone probably would have loved Season of the Witch. This movie has so much riding on the fact that people expect it to be a Freddy movie, and Wes Craven is trying not to make a Freddy movie while also appeasing the Freddy fans. And I think, and this is, I could be talking up my ass, I think he wanted to appease Freddy fans by calling back so much to the original film. The one film that he made, as opposed to all the other sequels that he had nothing to do with, except for the third one, which, just briefly. I think,
yeah, I like the callback. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with the callbacks from these movies. That's one of the reasons why I like it. But I do believe that the witch aspect, which is like maybe confusing because Wes Craven, the character in the movie, doesn't ever reference it as a witch. He just references it as an entity. And the only way you know of a witch is if you've been following the breadcrumbs of the story that Dylan's telling with the whole Hansel and Gretel thing, and you're familiar with that whole story and its background and what happens. It pretty much telegraphs how the whole ending of the movie is and everything else.
Here's what Wes Craven says about it in the scene. After he says it's an entity, he's like, it's very old. It's existed in different forms at different times. The only thing that stays the same is what it lives for. And she's like, what is that? And he's like, well, the murder of innocence, which goes along. I mean, especially because the kid calls it a witch later. That's like the biggest tell of the whole thing. It may not necessarily. I mean, he does call it a witch, but it's interesting. She asks how they can stop it, and he says that they can sometimes trap it or capture it.
Yeah.
And he's like how? And he's like, then he talks about using the script and the story to do it. And I guess I guess is that what they do at the end?
Yeah.
When they I guess they catch him on fire and trap him in the script.
Well, they trap it when Nancy agrees to do the film. They trap it because you got to remember Wes Craven, the character, tells her the only way to trap it is if she takes the role on. And of course she does. And that's indicated by the fact that she takes on the Nancy persona at the very, very end of the film. And then the script that she finds at the very end, which has Wes's little saying. I didn't write the damn one, but I wish I
got it right here.
Oh, you read that? What's that?
He says, Heather, thanks for having the guts to play Nancy one last time. At least Freddy is back where he belongs.
Yeah. So the ideal is that
it's a handwritten note on the script.
Yeah, it's the handwritten note on the script, and then therefore the entity is now trapped again until the public and people stop telling the story. And then the first thing we do, or what they do in the movie, is Heather is reading the script to her son. You have to keep telling the story in order for the entity to be trapped. That's the only way to trap it, is to keep telling the story. And so then, of course, on the script, it says the script, the story is called Wes Craven's New Nightmare by Wes Craven. So you get that, it's kind of like it all fits in with the story he's trying to tell. But is that the story that audiences wanted at that time? Probably not, because they had gotten Freddy's dead.
Now they that last shot when she's reading the script to the kid. It's the camera starts dollying back, and it goes past these glass paintings on the wall where you can see reflections into the room. It would have been cool if there had been something in the room that you could kind of see in the reflection. That would have been a good opportunity to do something like that. But as far as I could tell, they didn't do it.
I think with this film, Wes wanted to go against all the aesthetics of the previous films. This film is shot very much like reality. All the stuff that you see until you go into Freddy's world is very much brightly lit. It's all until the freeway sequence where we both say that the CGI gets kind of crazy, and of course you see Freddy interacting with the character, raising him up above cars and stuff, which seems a little bit kind of crazy. But I guess you could play that off as Dylan just sleepwalking and just do it, and Freddy able to do some crazy shit in the real world. Yeah. But a lot of this is really shot almost like reality. It's like, as opposed to being a film Like, I don't know if you understand if I'm saying the right words. It's not really shot to be like the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, you don't have all those really those dark shots and all that type of stuff when you look at the scenes with Freddy in them. They're brightly lit.
Yeah.
They're lit like they would normally be lit if you're in the hospital or if you're in your own house. Like you said earlier, it looks like not just the dialogue, but some of the looks look like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
it's
but they
very
look better.
filmistic.
They look better than that. 'Cause they clearly had a bigger budget, more time to shoot it, but they have more depth in the scenes than a Hallmark movie would have. But it does kind of look like that. It is brightly lit. It looks really good, and it looks really good watching it on 4K. I didn't see it on the theater. In the theater, it probably looked even better then. But I mean, the detail looks really nice on the new 4K transfer.
I'll have to get that one. I do not have the 4K transfer for this movie. I just have my Blu-ray box set of this one.
Yeah,
I do have the
but
box set for this one. We did discuss the Friday the 13th box set in a previous episode, but I do not have that one. But I do have a Blu-ray box set of this franchise because even though I kind of pick on Freddy's Dead, I actually generally can watch all these films. Unlike the Friday the 13th films, I can't really always watch all those. Or heaven forbid the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film where I can't watch all those motherfuckers. This one I could generally watch all of them, even though I don't always like them all.
I can watch 4 of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films.
I have 20 now.
I can watch maybe 5, but I can watch the first 3, and then the remake's really good. But that's about it, I think.
If you want to talk about an uneven franchise of movies, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has become the most uneven and rebooted franchise in probably horror history since they keep rebooting it with every new movie that comes out.
Yeah, it's it talk about like that the tone being uneven too. Some of those sequels, the tone is all over the place.
Yeah. Uh, I just thought about that. I'm a little surprised that no one has done a new Freddy actually after the remake.
Well, that remake was it just wasn't well received, so they haven't really gone back to it. And Robert Englund says he's too old to
Oh
do
yeah,
it
he's already
now.
said he's too old for that shit. Yeah,
every now and then I'll see something about him maybe going to do it, but I think a lot of it's clickbait when you see that.
Yeah. But unlike the Friday 13th franchise, which has the rights all over the place, which is why we hadn't seen a new movie of that, the Freddy are still owned by New Line, which is Warner Brothers. So in theory, they can make one whenever the hell they want to. So it's interesting to bring that question up. I don't know how well. I know this one did not do well, and then we had the remake after this, or did we have Jason versus Freddy?
It was Jason versus Freddy was next because that was a big thing that New Line was basically told Wes Craven. It's like, if you want to do this movie, you do it now because we're about to do that Jason versus Freddy movie. And Wes Craven said, "All right, I'm going to do it." And so they said, "Okay, and we're going to push back the Jason versus Freddy movie then."
Yeah, that
because that would have been very jarring for this to come out after Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, well, I think it would have had the same effect, but I mean, the thing is, it's hard to do Freddy Krueger without Robert Englund. He's really synonymous with the part. When they tried to do it with Jackie Earle Haley, it was just met with such dismay. Not that it was a bad performance, but it just wasn't Robert Englund.
No, I think don't like Jackie Earle Haley. I think he's the only thing I did like about that movie. I think that movie tried to be way too dark. It was trying to be a Wes Craven movie, and it just failed horribly. I mean, you can't do the original story better than Wes Craven did it. It still holds up extremely well. If they've done their own story, like a separate one, completely, I think it would have been much better received, kind of like the recent reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. They weren't doing a remake of Hellraiser. They just did a completely separate story that had nothing to do with any of the previous films, and it worked. That's what they should do with Freddy.
And this is why we need to have its own episode dedicated to the remake.
Yeah. One day, we have like 7 other movies before that to get to. I'm not in the hurry to get to that remake. I'll tell you that now.
I mean, yeah, I mean, when I saw the remake, I wasn't like that mad about it. I thought it was okay. I wasn't as mad as everybody else, but it definitely didn't. It's like it's weird the way they very is much like use the script from the first one and or the format of it, and almost everything happens the same, but it's not as good.
Yeah, but then you think about this film, and Wes Craven crafting this film and trying not to do anything that had been done in the countless sequels that he didn't watch until before making this film, on purpose, probably because he couldn't figure out why someone would want to do a sequel to this film in the first place. And of course, he would have done different things. So he crafted this passion project, bringing in real life people that he had worked with on these films into Freddy's world. Um, I don't think he ever. I honestly think that after all the bad publicity that passion projects get, whether they're horror or drama or whatever, I don't think anyone who's doing a passion project in this day and age believes their passion project's ever going to make money unless you're James Cameron. All right. Passion projects have been notorious for never breaking even,
Yeah.
never making money from
Well,
everybody
yeah.
unless you're James Cameron or Martin Scorsese. They
Well,
just don't.
yeah.
They have a bad reputation, but people do them because the only opportunity that they get while they are at the top of their game to be able to do that project without a whole bunch of studio interference. Now, we all have talked about this film having some studio interference, but how much of it was good studio interference based on the people that he put in his movie himself and who he respected versus bad influence like he had on Cursed with the Weinsteins? That's the question I'd like to have answered. But unfortunately, he has passed away, and so we won't be able to really get into that kind of conversation. But that's a question that should be answered whenever we talk about a passion project. How much of it is the actual director's influence, and how much did studio interference kind of craft it in a different direction?
Well, I mean, I feel, even though I don't know the answer for sure, but just from watching the movie, I feel like he got a lot of what he wanted in the movie.
Yeah.
Because, like I was saying, I can see some stuff that should have been like condensed to make the running time like so you get to that end quicker.
Yeah.
But so I feel that they maybe made some like those two big things and made him kill that one character, those two characters. But I think other than that, it's. But I don't know how they could have gotten away without killing Chase, because you had to have the funeral scene to bring everybody together.
Who knows? We're not privy to the early drafts of the
Yeah.
film unless you can read them online. So I say you'd have to, as a outside person like us, we would have to have the opportunity to read Wes Craven's first draft and then the final draft. And then any notes that were given by the studio in between, which all that stuff is cataloged. The studios keep all this shit. I've actually read a lot of the stuff that had to be cut out of the film to meet the what the hell was that board? The censor board back in the was it 60s or 50s or 60s? I can't remember the Hays Code. All the different films. Yeah, you have to when you submit a film to your studio and they give you notes, they keep track of all that shit.
The Hays Code was brutal too.
The Hays Code was brutal, and there's a book out there that kind of catalogs all the shit the Hays Code made films cut out of it. It's a really fascinating book. I wish I remembered the title. Yeah. It's really fascinating. So it'd be interesting to sit down and kind of just take these passion projects like this one and kind of see what was the studio mandated changes and why they wanted those changes. Because all three of us have had this conversation about this film now, say that there has to be some of this in this film because it doesn't really feel like a Freddy film and it doesn't really feel like a 100% Wes Craven film. It's something in between. And it'd be interesting to have all that type stuff. So, but anything else you guys would like to discuss that we haven't already discussed? I know, Dave, you usually have lots of stuff that we kind of skip over, especially with this conversation where we went everywhere.
No, I think we covered it good enough. And like again, I think I've I got a lot more of a negative feeling about this film than you do. I think a lot of people really like it. I just couldn't. It's one I really wanted to like, but I had such a hard time liking it.
And this is coming from you having just recently rewatched it too.
Well,
So
yeah. Well, I think yeah. Go ahead.
well, no, I said your ideals are like time has been kind to this film in terms of
Yeah.
its cult status now. Time has been kind to this film, but for you, it has not been, which is
Well,
very
yeah.
interesting.
What was weird about it is that I remember seeing it, and I do admire the film. I do appreciate its ambition, but I do remember seeing it the first time and think it's similar to what I thought this time. I thought it was a cool idea, but I was kind of like I thought it was too slow and not enough going on. There's like but then I was like, okay. Then over time, I was thinking I must have been really. I was a lot younger when I watched it, and I was looking for a more traditional Freddy. I was probably mistaken since this has it is interesting because it did kind of create the meta slasher film which would later really work and Scream really well.
Yes,
But it was kind of a stepping stone towards Scream to me.
I think a lot of this is before its time. I think this one and In the Mouth of Madness were way before its time. Audiences were not prepared for these type of movies that were meta like this. They weren't.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird the way they happen at the same time too. It's like there's always two or three of them
Yep.
that come out at the same time that are like it's like was it The Matrix and Dark City? It's like
Yep. Yep.
and I saw Dark City and then first and I was like, man, that was awesome. And I saw The Matrix. And everyone's like, that was awesome. And I was like, I don't know, but Dark City I thought was just very similar. Yeah, I thought it was like the same thing almost.
I'm a bigger fan of Dark City. I like The
Yeah.
Matrix, but I've seen Dark City like 100 times. I've seen The Matrix maybe four. I like
Yeah,
The
it was like
Matrix.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't
I
watch
think
it a whole lot.
yeah, I saw Dark City twice in the theater. When I was watching The Matrix, I was just and I like The Matrix better now, but the first time I watched it, I was kind of pissed off because they kind of took the kind of Dark City thing without the neo noir stuff going on, or But I
Oh,
thought,
shit. Oh, what about you, Philip?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have too much more to say that we've already said. Yeah, no, I mean, again, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about now of like, if this was made today with today's, you know, like this would be today one of the reboot remakes where like slash kind of like sorry, more it'll be more of a nostalgia film. I should preface say. Like if this movie was made today, you would have Johnny Depp. You would have all the cast from all of the Freddy movies making a cameo and stuff, which is kind of interesting to think about to a point. But no, back then it's like again, it was a passion project where like good or bad, like Wes Craven was really trying to kind of stick a little bit about like, hey, what it kind of reminds me a little bit it's kind of Matrix 4 a little bit of how like they
Yes.
how in that movie they put so many takes to Warner Brothers about it. And
Yes. No, that's
and
a
this
great reference. Great
Yeah.
reference.
and this is not as like there's a couple jabs, but it's versus Matrix 4. I don't think this one fully lost its way with that. I think it still had a good overall story versus Matrix 4, which that was a whole train wreck in my opinion. But
I love Matrix 4.
but yeah, so it's kind of interesting in that way, what it laid the groundwork for. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, that's generally I'm kind of in the middle of us three about like there's the things I like about it, there's things I think it could have done better and stuff. Even rewatching again for the episode and stuff, there are things that's like okay, I harped on a lot more the first time watching that I eased on a little bit more the second time around.
As you should. Like I said, I love watching. I love talking about the movies from someone's perspective, like you, who didn't grow up having watched it when they originally came out, to being much because, like I said, these type of films. The moment you, as a newer generation, hears, "Oh man, that movie takes the box office. It's horrible. You need to watch the good sequel. Go back to watching the Dream Warriors, which is a much more dynamic and explosive sequel than this film ever was. And as you both have already mentioned, this one is not so much a dynamic and explosive sequel to the franchise. This one's very different than the rest of them. Stuff like that is like when you're gonna. If I was to tell you which one of the sequels you should watch, the first one would be Dream Warriors. If you're a fan of the first movie, just watch Dream Warriors. That's great. Then you watch Wes Craven, New Nightmare. And then if you really want to have some fun, I'd say go watch the second one. Because as ludicrous as the second one is, it's fun.
Well, yeah, I think a good order for watching these would be the first one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, and then this one, and then two, and then maybe Freddy's Dead. So
See, I like watching how stupid and crazy the second one is, in my opinion.
no, I mean, no, I'm not saying if you were going to watch them in order, because the second one doesn't have anything to do with the plot. Like the plot of the first, like it runs pretty good between 1, 3, 4, and 5. Even though it's all kind of wonky a little bit, but it does follow. Each movie does go into the next movie.
Yeah, they used to. And I forgot to mention Freddy versus Jason, which I actually would put right after the third one, because that movie is just batshit perfect for a versus movie. It's always
Yeah,
shit.
but I think, but if you're watching them in chronological, to follow the story, though, it would
Fuck the
like
story, dude.
with 3, 4, and 5, you almost have to watch because they have the same characters in them that
You
go
pitiful
between
Dave.
them.
Screw that shit. No,
I'm not ranking them. I'm not saying that's my ranking of them. Obviously Freddy versus Jason is one of the more superior ones, but
the
but I'm
fourth
just
one
saying
fourth one has really good kills. Like the fourth one has really good kills in it. I just don't like the fourth one. And
yeah, the fourth one was really disappointing for me because they kill off the Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
And it really quick, and always hated that. But this time I watched it recently, I had a better appreciation for it. So I just like let that go. I'm like, I don't know, I understand why they killed him, because they can't just have people like fighting Freddy over and over again, the same people. So they had to get rid of them.
I never thought about that. You're absolutely right, though. Freddy's got to have new blood.
Yeah, they do carry it. They do keep the same character though in 4 and 5.
Allison.
Allison, and she doesn't die in 5, but they didn't continue the story past that.
Because then we got Freddy's Dead, which is just funny.
Yeah. I haven't seen Freddy's Dead in a really long time. That's one of the ones I have not watched.
It's aged badly.
Yeah, probably since it came out. So I don't think I've seen. That's probably the only one I haven't seen more than twice.
That one's a comedy. As long as you keep in mind it's a comedy that has Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr and Johnny Depp, then you're fine. It's a comedy. He's got a power glove. That movie's a fucking comedy, dude. It's a comedy.
Yeah. I mean, I look forward to revisiting it. That's like I do have fond memories of it.
But if we get lucky, we might revisit some of the other Nightmare on Elm Street films in this year, if not next year. But until then, I do want to thank you both for having this conversation in horror, in which we discuss Wes Craven's New Nightmare. For all of you out there, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies between 1 and 5. 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we like to do is we like to pull something from the film, an object, quote, or saying, to attribute to the film. What is your rating, and what object, quote, or saying are you attributing to your rating, Mr. Phillip? We're going to start with you today.
I'm going to do 3.5 weird, very long tongues out of 5.
All right, Dave. What's yours?
I'm going to use the black trench coat, and I'm going to give it 2.5 black trench coats.
All right. So obviously, as we've been talking, mine will be much better. I have a much fonder memory of the film, and I still have that for this movie here. But you guys, it's been so much fun talking about it. So I'm gonna give it 4.5. I was about to say Miko Hughes being dangled across the highway, but it's really Dylan being dangled across the highway by Freddy's little fingers. That's what I'm gonna give it.
Yeah.
I have to say I have really enjoyed this conversation. Like Dave and I have had some great conversations lately on really random movies. This one has been a really good conversation in regards to having different opinions, because all three of us have a different outlook on this movie, and it's been so much entertainment to be had for this film. And I do hope, audience, that you have enjoyed us talking about this film. I guess, as we all say, time and time again, we all like what we like when it comes to horror. Some people see some things, other people see other things. We all have something about these films that we enjoy and things that we don't enjoy so much. So I want to thank you all for joining us here at Conversation in Horror, in which we discuss Wes Craven's new Nightmare. Please make sure to like, share, follow. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast, in your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. Please make sure to check out our other episodes this month that have to deal with Wes Craven. That is our special theme this month, and we are diving deep into a lot of Wes Craven's films, so please make sure to check those out. Also, check out our sister podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into the amazing oeuvre that is the 60s, 70s, and 80s of Hammer Studios. So with that, have a great day, and we will see you in your nightmares. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.